And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the title. You know what we're about to do? We're going to get into the deep weeds tonight. Y'all get ready because we have a great show planned for you. So thank y'all to everybody who's already jumped into the best live chat on the internet. Welcome. Thank y'all so much for going ahead and drop your number in there. I know where you are. Shout out to me. Why am I number 3? What's up with that? Hey, welcome. There we go. Kia Walker is a brand new member. Welcome, sister. Grace and peace to you. We have a fun show planned, so I want to hurry up and get going because y'all don't want to hear me. Y'all do not want to hear me. I guarantee you, you want to hear my guests. So let me go ahead and bring in Natalie Denise to the show. If I hit the button right, Jason, there we go. How are you, friend?
I'm doing really, really well. How are you?
Quite well. Thank you so much. Now, Natalie Denise, wonderful content creator. Real quick, just tell us about yourself. The mods have already dropped your link in the chat. Shout out to them. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what your channel's about, all that kind of good stuff.
Sure. So I've tried to do this in a nutshell because I've had quite a lengthy experience on YouTube. So initially myself, my testimony, I went through the ringer, found Christ back in 2012. And through finding Christ in 2012, I actually found purpose, and that was in combating human trafficking, outreach on the streets of Houston. And that turned into a lot of multifaceted opportunities to volunteer. So that was going on the streets, praying with the sex workers, praying with, the cantina workers. And from there, visiting safe houses for children and then adults, and just kind of experiencing the volunteership and the fellowship there. I was a makeup artist, and so I would try to, offer that lesson for anybody who wanted a gig or a hustle,
Right.
Honest money. And so, just multifaceted ways to volunteer in that aspect. So that also, it showed me the face of Christ, and, that aspect of outreach and fellowship. And, as far as YouTube, my YouTube completely separate. It was nothing centered around Christ. It was
Okay.
movie. It was a movie review channel. That's what it
Hey,
started
come
off
on
with.
now.
Yeah. But it just became too tedious. This was like 9 years ago. I
Right.
used to react to trailers and go to movies, movie premieres. But it burnt me out. Had to go to the movie, edit it, shoot the video, edit
Shoot
it
the
the
video.
same night, because it's a movie review. So it's like everybody wants to
Facts.
see the movie review before the movie comes out. So
Oh, yeah.
usually those were on Thursdays. I would do that on by Friday morning. And so I got burnt out, went on hiatus. Then we all know what happened around 2020, right? It was like the
Summer
big
of
chaos.
love.
Right.
Yeah.
And everybody could see, like a lot of people could see what was going on. It was the years prior to 2020 and the years within
Post.
2020 and then after. And everybody saw like mainstream agenda. People were shoving it down our throats, stay inside, yet there were contradictory things happening outside, cities, forests being lit on fire while people weren't wearing masks. It was just a crazy time. And it was dystopian, and we all saw what was happening. And
Facts.
so with that, created content on that. And, this was also a simultaneous time for the birth of the conspiracy theory phenomenon. And this was like everything coming out at once.
No, you weren't. Were you a conspiracy theorist? You got your
Um,
tinfoil hat.
I will say there was the 17th letter that really spurred the moment with that.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about Q, a lot of
Yeah.
people, this was a very popular thing, but it was a very censorious thing at the same time. So it was
For
the
sure.
Streisand effect. People were like, well, what is this? Why
Mm-hmm.
are they trying to block these posts? Because they very much were. And so it was a very fun, thrilling thing to be engaged with, right? But, although this is not it's not centric to my content. There were a lot of bits that pointed to events and things to look up. And that's how my content started to orbit around that very phenomenal time.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it transitioned to conspiracy content, and it was some news bits here and there, and but my thrill was investigating the conspiracies, and it got to a point where I started to pivot my thinking started to pivot rather. And it was when I was looking for sensation. I was looking for that sensational thing that was backing the conspiracy theory. I wanted it to be true. And it wasn't until I really got to like the very big ones, like the Red Shoe Club, Tony Podesta wearing
Okay.
shoes, Bill Maher, all the celebrities wearing their shoes. In a nutshell, the theory was, they must be symbolizing the deleted kids. And that's why they wear red shoes. Well, I was like, well, I want to find where this came from. I want to find like why they do this. And
Absolutely.
long story short, people can go to my channel. They can go, I have a part one, part two on that. But I found that this was just sensational. Bill Maher, his famous photo of him walking down the street with reddish tinted shoes they were actually brown. I found a video of them. They were brown shoes. So people were being dishonest, right? They were just passing this around because it was sensational. And that was the conclusion that I came to. And I was honest with myself. This is nothing sensational. And it's okay that this doesn't have any sensational basis to it. And so that's where I started to pivot. And that's where I started to accept reality. That some of this is not as sensational. Some of these are just conspiracy theories, and they don't have anything factual backing them. Just to land one more point that pivoted me, it was investigating the Silent Children documentary conspiracy theory, and this was everybody was shocked by Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington's death. And
Correct.
everybody was searching for answers because it didn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense to this day, to be honest with you.
For sure.
And so my thing was like, there was one conspiracy theory that was born out of one tweet, an open secret, the account on Twitter that published this tweet. And their tweet was simply that Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington were making a documentary centered around exposing I don't know if I can say that on your channel, but child T-word.
Right.
And that Chris Cornell was financially backing it, and that Linkin Park and Chester Bennington were contributing music to it. Well, okay, that's pretty big. And how come we can't see any evidential pieces that point to this? So I did years long of research, just years of research, open source. And it turns out that there was no actual proof other than that tweet backing this conspiracy theory that just went viral. And so after doing that, and again, that's also on my channel, it's called Clear the Airwaves. And then I have another series just covering Chris Cornell's passing. After seeing that there was nothing factual that backed this one tweet, and people were still married to this conspiracy theory, that's where I started to like wake up a little bit. Like, okay,
Excellent.
I literally did years long of research and just searching for the truth on this one conspiracy theory, and people don't want to believe it. So that I went on hiatus because I just didn't feel like chasing something that just wasn't, it was like I was forcing myself to chase a conspiracy that may have not had factual basis to it. Okay.
Got it.
I just wasn't interested in it. And so I went on hiatus again. Now I did pepper in a few videos, and there were a few things that made me like stand back that were happening in the conservative sphere. And, really a lot of that was Andrew Tate's, his whole case in Romania, and seeing influencers on the conservative side not just lie, but cover up and softball facts about Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate. And I'm like, wait, like you saw people like Tucker Carlson who were giving softball interviews to Andrew Tate, not, coming loaded with strong questions.
Serious questions. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And same thing with Candace Owens. And it wasn't until Candace Owens' softball interview with Andrew Tate, and not only that, she was redefining human trafficking. She was she was lessening the severity of human trafficking. And to me, that was on my radar, because I'm like, wait a minute, no, that's not that's not the definition of human trafficking. And, you know, she
Right.
was so oversimplifying it as, you know, taking kids in a truck somewhere. That's not what human trafficking is. So seeing her being dishonest about that, and not only that, on Daily Wire's payroll, she was defending a pedophile named Keith Fox,
Sure
shielding his
was.
name over and over and over again.
Yep.
And, you know, nobody blinked twice. I was like, me and just a few other people on X were like calling her out on it. Like, you're shielding this pedophile, and all you other followers are okay with this. And we're this movement of save the children, but people aren't calling her out on this. You know what I mean? So that to me was like a cult like phenomenon, because you should be able to call out your own side for being dishonest. So
You should. Yeah.
that's a whole nutshell, but that's really where I'm at now. Now, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, you know, that really shook me up. And seeing the revival, let me back up. Seeing the revival that was supposed to take place in the wake of his assassination
Correct.
be
Here we go.
overshadowed by what we're seeing now with Candace Owens and her followers and the cult-like, you know, blindedness. This is something that is another phenomenon. It's like what we saw during COVID, and we couldn't shut up about it. It was the same. It's the same thing. We couldn't shut up about the mainstream media and the celebrities, you know, trying to shove these messages down our throat. And it's like, no, like, we're pointing these things, these contradictions out. And it's like they didn't like that. And I'm seeing the same thing, but it's weird because it's infiltrated on the conservative side. So I feel my draw to make my content more centric around the gospel and centric around Christian, you know, Christian themed subjects, or tie
Correct.
it to the gospel and point people to Christ. Because that's what ultimately matters. None of this matters. None of this matters.
It doesn't.
Our salvation matters, and pointing people to Christ is what matters. So that's where I'm at now with my pivot on my YouTube channel. So that's a whole thing.
No, that's a whole thing.
That's a
And I appreciate it. No, I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
So it's fair to say, Natalie, that you're not going to be doing a book club on conspiracy theories and chaos and MK Ultra. I'm going to go on a limb. How about that one? Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: like, if it's an aid in pointing people to the gospel, I wouldn't see why not. If deconstructing people, I mean, who's to say? There might be some right-wing influencers that were MK Ultra, and this is why we see them doing this sudden pivot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna say I don't know things that I don't know, but if it does point people to the gospel and it points them to Christ, I don't see why not.
No, I got you. I was only making fun of it because I pointed out that Candace's book club, that's all they talk about is those type of books. I'm like, why don't you talk about a book about your faith, or help your audience understand what it is that you believe? And we're going to talk about that in a second, because we're going to be talking about what she believes. So why not talk about that instead of, you know, again, about Freud and all these other things that she brings up? Again, more conspiracies, more rabbit trails, more rabbit holes, and digging deeper and deeper and deeper into things that, as you said, that ultimately don't matter when the smoke clears. So let's go ahead and get talking about it, because we have a fun video. What I have here, and just in case the audience is not clear, we have Candace at a Catholic convention conference, and she's the keynote speaker, and she's giving her testimony. And her testimony of conversion into Catholicism. And it's really interesting, to say the very, very least, what she believes and what Catholicism means to her. And if you are a Catholic, I would love for you to stick around to the end, because there's a Q&A at the end. And I'd love to hear your thoughts pertaining to this, because I want to hear where you stand and where you land on this. So let's go ahead with no further ado. Let's bring in this video and let's get this game underway. Ladies and gentlemen, green hearts in the chat when you can hear. Let's go.
All right, well, let's get started. So I was asked to speak tonight about my journey, and it's a huge question. People always want to know, like, what made you become baptized, convert into the Catholic faith? I was Protestant my entire life, and everybody's journey is different, and everybody's journey, or at least for me, has been very strange, and I'm very excited to share it with you. And I think you guys have probably figured out that my journey really was through politics to faith. Not a typical journey, but that is really where it began for me and my life.
Okay, I got to stop right there. I got to just go ahead and do it. Conservatism is not Christianity.
Right.
You can be a conservative and not be a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can really be a Christian and not be conservative.
Right.
But you can be a conservative and not be a Christian, because conservative values are ultimately just common sense. They're very basic. Man, woman, create little people. I mean, that's very basic. The man is always going to be a man. The woman is always going to be a woman. Little people are going to be the little people that they are until they become big people. It's really that simple. It's not complex. However, I don't, and we're going to hear this in a second. She went from politics, which again is downstream from culture, and culture
Right.
is impacted directly by your faith. So you're already starting on step 2, if you will, rather than step 1, which is faith leads into your culture and your faith should inform all the other aspects of your life. And if you are a Christian, it governs how you deal with your husband or your wife. It governs how you do your job and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And you spending your money, all that stuff is influenced by your faith in Christ. So, or your politics is informed by your faith. So to say that you went from politics to faith, how does that work? It goes backwards.
The only thing I will say is if she were to say that she was influenced by Christians within the political sphere, that's the only thing that I can say. I can see, like, okay, she was influenced by, or she was witnessed by another Christian, and that's how she came to faith through politics. But that's the only way I could see.
Right. And spoiler alert, she doesn't say that. So let's keep it rolling. Let's go.
Life has had so many twists and turns, and so I'm going to take you very quickly through the political journey, which I think everybody was very aware of, and I guess I'll kind of take you through a marathon of sorts of my life. And so, you know, the story of Candace Owens is I've had the same character throughout my entire life. Maybe not the same ideas, but I've had the same character. And so it's interesting when I go on all these college campuses and when I speak at events and I get asked a question and people, you know, wonder sort of where did my courage come from to confront some of these issues head on. And now that I have children, I can say I do think some people are just sort of born that way. And for my parents, I was a tough one, because I think most kids are sort of content when parents say to them, you know, do this because I said so, or do this or else Santa's not going to come. You know, the easy stuff that you get to say to toddlers and it works. And I was just one of those kids that was like, well, then you tell him not to come to Santa. And that's very frustrating for a parent. You're like, you're 3, you know, could you just clean your room? You don't have to make this difficult, because it wasn't that I was angry. I just always wanted someone to explain things to me rationally. I didn't like sort of the arbitrary authority. I came out not liking arbitrary authority. I would be happy to clean my room, but I don't want the reason for me to clean my room is because some guy is going to come down a chimney, somehow get skinny and drop off some presents. Like, that didn't make sense to me, even at the age of 3. And I was fortunate that my grandfather...
Do you want to jump on that?
I was stringing along at this point. You know, at the point where I was like, okay, where are we at? So I was hearing her out.
I can understand. And to be fair, this is the woman that we see now. Like, she's not satisfied with certain things, or you're just not going to have the answers to everything.
Right.
No matter what, you're not going to have the answer to everything. She's not satisfied with that. She wants the answer, or she's going to make the answer, or just keep prodding until she finds the answer that satisfies her, which I don't think she ever is satisfied, because you can't know everything. So, right. But I want us to hear again. She's telling us she says she's like 3 or 4 here. Tell me when she ever converts to Christ. Tell me when she ever becomes a Christian. I want to hear that part. If anybody catches that. And Natalie also sent you a message in private chat.
It was a huge part of my life growing up, and my grandfather and my grandmother were incredibly faithful. And as a part of our morning breakfast routine, during my formative years, I lived with my grandfather. He would make sure that we read the Bible every single morning. And of course, during those first miles of your life, you're not really understanding things, and you're picking up things here and picking up things there, and things are mostly caught and not taught. And my grandfather just had this breakfast routine where we'd go through the Bible and he'd challenge us about scripture. And for me, really, I just thought, I really want to beat my sisters and get the right answer, right? I'm one of four. And so when he'd go around and he'd sort of rank us according to our answers by giving us a mug.
Okay. And this is just real petty. She gives a different number every time she talks about her siblings. So now it's one of four. Earlier, I have a video where she says she has two siblings. She has two sisters. But then later on, she talks about my sisters and my brothers. I don't know if she's nervous. I don't know what this is, but she does do this. So this is yet another instance where she's given a different number. I'm not mad at her. I'm just something I pointed out. But go ahead.
No, that's a good catch. I didn't catch that detail.
Yeah.
There's so much that I'm trying to, make of her testimony. That's like what I'm horse blinders on, but I completely didn't catch that detail. So good catch.
Yeah. I think she does have two sisters and one brother. And again, I'm willing to be gracious. Maybe you misspoke. I don't mention both of my brothers every time I talk about my siblings. So I can be gracious, but I just notice it just keeps evolving. And also she kind of skipped the whole background of, apparently she was raised initially in sounds like the projects with her mom or dad or mom living in some pretty deplorable conditions. And that's where her grandfather steps in. So she kind of skipped that whole segment of the story because it kind of gives context. But again, let's hear what happens with the morning Bible time.
And we'd figured out who won for the day in terms of answering scripture. But then I think when you get into, I would describe this in the marathon as mile 7 of your life, you are suddenly, and I think for me this was in middle school into high school, quite embarrassed. I was so embarrassed of my faithful grandparents constantly talking about God and the Bible, and I just want to be cool, I want to be secular. I want to get along with everybody that's at school and not think about faith, and that is just sort of the world coming at you. And for whatever reason, you can't be cool if you're talking about scripture. You can't be cool if you're Christian. And so it was so natural for me to sort of pull away from my grandparents, pull away from my faith, more importantly. And I sort of still kept up the same Candace Owens spirit. And this is a true story. There's one high school teacher that I still keep in touch with, and he's messaged me and said, Candace, if there was anybody that I could have picked in high school that would be doing what they're doing and making it as far as you have as a public figure, it would have definitely been you, because you drove me crazy. Poor Mr. White. And part of the reason was because I didn't like arbitrary authority. I just wanted to be able to think, even if my ideas weren't right. And I specifically, he recalls that having given me a test, and it was one of these tests that were on World War II, the answers are the questions.
Okay, I'm going to just stop for a second because I don't think she's going to come back to it. Mm-hmm. She never talks about her conversion, how she became a quote unquote Christian. She says it wasn't cool to be Christian, to talk about God, talk about scripture. But where did you get into the mix? I know your granddad talked about it, but what about you? How did you get into it? And she never talks about it.
Right. And that's a huge indicator for any Christian's testimony. Even if, and there's such a spectrum of testomessions. It can be something so small. You don't have to serve Satan to be saved.
No.
You could be saved at 7 years old. Some Christians, I know some Christians that were saved when they were kids. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be this gargantuan, story. Some people have them, some people don't. But right. I have yet to hear that. And I mentioned that in some of the notes that I was taking about watching this particular testimony. There was up to a timestamp where I was like, I still haven't heard that moment.
Mm-mm. Now, she says she's in high school at this point. So she's not in 5th grade anymore. She's in high school. And It just seems interesting, but let's keep it going. Let's go.
Are supposed to be easy. You're supposed to just give a simple answer. And there was this one question, and it was, why did we have to drop the atom bomb on Japan? And most of the kids just wrote the answer, and the answer is always because we needed to end World War II. And of course, Candace couldn't do that, and so I just rose my hand and told the teacher that I didn't like his question. He's like, Candace, what do you mean you don't like the question? And I said, well, this kind of implies the answer. This kind of implies that we had to drop the bomb on Japan. And I'd rather think through that and see if I agree with that. And maybe I do, but I want to actually be allowed to use my brain. And maybe I think we shouldn't have dropped it. When you just imply that we had to, I don't like that. And so that really was sort of, mile 7 of my life, and very sure of myself and very certain and wanting to be a thinker. And it wasn't really until around, I would say, mile 15 of the marathon that things got a little bit complicated because, I'd gone through university and I was a liberal, as any person that is fortified by the public school system comes out.
All right, so we're in college now.
Right.
We're in college now. And I'm sorry, the marathon metaphor is not working. I don't know who told her to do that. It's not working because it doesn't jive. I don't know where you're getting it from. If I'm not familiar with marathons, and you're in mile 15, that means you only got 11 more miles to go. Ma'am, this is not working. But also she's not told us how she became a Christian.
Right.
And so that's really important because her transition to be a Catholic makes no sense now. It makes no sense whatsoever. But go ahead.
I will say to the marathon idea, maybe if it were her grandfather that was working on her over the course of her life, from childhood, where she mentioned they were reading the Bible, to high school, to college, that was the marathon. And then there was that one day where she got it. Every Christian has this one aha moment. But to your point, we have not heard it just yet. If yet. And I don't, and the reason I want to bring this up, I don't want people to think we're just here to pick on Candace and Jason just wants to make a cottage industry of dunking on Candace, which I can. I want you to hear why I don't take a lot of what she says seriously. And I'm encouraging you, especially if you're a Candy. And if you're a Candy, I do want you to come get your seat up at the front of the church. By now, y'all know, come on up here to the front of the church, get close. I want you to think about this. She is saying that she is a deep thinker, that she wants to use her mind. Why does she not let you do that and give you the same evidence that she would have in order to use your brain? I want you to think about that. Why does she do this? Because it seems like she almost speaks out both sides of her mouth. Like she wanted to be a deep thinker. She wanted to use her brain, but she doesn't want you to think. She doesn't want you to use your brain. And that's not a Christian practice at all in any way, shape, or form. But let us continue. I think also, let me also just add on to that. I think also it's important for us Christians to recognize that there is that pinpoint. There is that pivotal point in our testimony that adds to the gospel. And so if we're just going to follow people who say that they're Christians, then we're going to follow everybody who says that they're Christian, which is what we're seeing on social media today, which is a whole other rabbit hole. The psyop, the spiritual psyop that's on social media right now. That's why this is important to call out. If there is a wolf in sheep's clothing, then why is it a wolf in sheep's clothing? It's important for us to pinpoint why, and not just sling blame. That's not what we're trying to do. It's to pinpoint why. Why can't we why can't we illustrate that she is actually telling her testimony? And it's important for everybody to recognize that as a Christian.
And let me also just add, just to help people out, because before you jump in here and say, Jason, you're just a big meanie head. Back a couple years ago, there was an artist that put out what people were calling a gospel album. This person had pivoted from being secular, pivoted from all of the debauchery, and put out an album and alleged himself to be a Christian. Was even going as far to doing these what's called church services and stuff, and put out this album, and everybody was just swooning. Oh, he's a Christian now. He's a Christian. And they jumped on my head because I said, how about we just wait? And I said, how about we just wait 3 more years. I said, if he's a Christian today, he'll be a Christian in 3 years. He'll be a Christian in 48 months. It
Right.
didn't take a whole year for Kanye West to do a complete 180 and turn completely in a different direction. So the reason I bring that up is because people swore up and down this guy was a Christian. He had better, I think he had better tutelage than Candace did, because he actually had a real pastor that was trying to work with him.
Yeah.
He had a real pastor that was trying to work with him. But I still said I need evidence. I need time. I need some abominating some of my past sins. I need to see some real clear change around. And guess what? I wasn't wrong. And so, it wasn't a real testimony. It wasn't real, like, for lack of a better term, a Saul to Paul moment. There wasn't any of that. It wasn't a I was blind, but now I see moment. No, it was just I'm a Christian now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 7
You've got
feet
a
tall
point,
now.
I was somebody who was fooled by Kanye at that time. I was like, oh yeah, he's a Christian. I was cheering that on, but there were people. It's so weird that you say that, because there were people that were calling it out, like, no, like, he's not a Christian. He's just using this. Yeah. People like you that were calling this out, and there were people like me that were like, oh, you're just hating, no, I mean,
No.
like, no, when you see it, you see it.
No, I'm good. I'm good. And the thing is, so that's why we're bringing this up. So let's keep it moving. Let's go.
If you've been properly public school catechized, then you know that you should be a liberal, you should be on the left, especially as a Black woman. I understood all of these things. And then I was sort of met with the real world. And while everything sounded so pretty growing up, that everything could be free, then I started understanding what taxes were when they were actually applied. And I was not politically inclined at all. And I was just working really hard to try to pay off my student loans. And this was the giant monkey on my back. Like, how am I going to actually make money and pay off these ridiculous loans? I mean, I'm 6 figures in student loan debt, and I have no idea how I'm going to pay that off with the salary that I'm making. And then lo and behold, in 2015, this was one of the moments where Donald Trump came down the escalator, and I looked at him and I looked at his wife and I said, oh, no, this guy cannot become president of the United States. No.
This story always bothers me. What's with him and the escalator?
Right.
No, she never graduated from college. She quit in her junior year because of student loan debt. But I don't know. Every time she brings up Trump and is coming down the escalator, I'm like, what was the big deal about this escalator?
I know.
Are you anti-escalator? Did you want him to walk? Like, what is he supposed to have done?
Yeah.
And somebody caught it. And I said this, Natalie, I feel like Candace recognized that at that time, there was not a Black. Now, conservatives and Republicans can say it as much as they want. They don't believe in identity politics, but we actually do. Like, just stop it. Just tell the truth, shame the devil.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that Candace recognized that there wasn't. Now, at the current moment, she's still liberal. So in a moment, she'll, heartbeat, she'll be conservative. Don't worry. And I think she saw that there was no Black female voice in the conservative space. And that's why she jumped into that space. And you'll see later in a moment why I say that. All right.
No, not me. I will not allow this to happen. And I remember thinking that, and they probably could have gotten me to think that forever if the media wasn't really hyperbolic in trying to sell why we shouldn't vote for him. Because if they had just said, listen, this guy's on reality TV, Obama speaks so clearly and he articulates so well, why would we want this guy who says you're fired? I would have been like, yeah, exactly, that's the right answer. And then, I was looking up and they weren't saying that. They were saying so much more horrific things, that he was a racist, that he was a sexist, that he was a misogynist, that if he was elected, Black people were going to be put back in slave trains. That was really the pitch to Black America. Like, do you want to go back to the South and be slaves? If your answer is no, you cannot vote for this man. I think for the first time I sort of just went, okay, that's weird. Like, I don't want him to be president, but also, like, this seems very extreme, the rhetoric here. And I started asking myself a question, like, is it possible that they're doing this a lot? I mean, I don't pay attention to politics, but this just feels like emotional engineering. And so I resolved to just sort of watch a Trump speech and actually hear what he had to say. And he gave one of his sort of Trump elevator pitches and was sort of like rattling off statistics about Black America and blah, 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 blah. And then he said, Black America, what do you have to lose? Just take a chance on me. Everything's not good. And the statistics were accurate about the crime rates and about the poverty in Black America. And I went, decent enough pitch. And then I was quite shocked when all of the media that I had trusted, actually, I had learned to trust these sources. I went to school for journalism. I was told that if you want the truth, you go to New York Times, you go to CNN. I watched them spin his speech into something that he just completely never said, again, with that point that they were trying to engineer this response. And this, to me, was a big moment. And I said, I think I want to do something about this. I think I actually want to just speak to people about this sort of race baiting game. And I started asking myself, is it possible that I'm actually a conservative? And I took and this really gets to Mile 18. Mile 18 was hard.
So she skipped over all of her background with social autopsy, all of the kerfuffle that happened with that. And now she's like, am I just, again, there's no, for lack of a better term, there is no monumental moment that shifts her from being a conservative to being a liberal, or liberal to being a conservative, because she noticed that the news reports were different. I mean, we've been noticing that forever. Like what was your position before where you saw Trump coming down the escalator? You're like, no. But now all of a sudden that changed you from literally night and day. These are not just, hey, I disagree with a dark blue hat. I think you should wear a dark purple hat. Now, those are different ideologies completely. What was it that changed you? And there's nothing here, but go ahead.
Right. No. And she ran an entire, she kind of pivots from the perspective of a liberal that, I can't, Trump is not, what she couldn't imagine Trump being her president. She was actually a liberal that ran a blog site. It was a pretty big one. I think it was called the 80th Degree or something like that.
It was called Social Autopsy, I thought. Or maybe it was another, was it another one?
There was a whole other website. There was a blog site. She was the head, and there were multiple authors on this website. There is an archive out there. I can't remember. It was something degree, the somethingth degree. And she was the top. And there were a bunch of liberal authors, bloggers on this one website, and they would just blog. Her ultimate piece was something about the Gamergate, and I think that's where she started to transition. So there's a little bit of my conspiratorial investigative bug there, but that's where she went from that, and then she did the social autopsy.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was. I think it was connected to that. But yeah, it's funny that she didn't mention anything about social autopsy.
Right, or any of this writing, none of that stuff that. It seemed like those would be pretty big points and mile markers, if you will, in your journey. You know what it is? There it is. The mile markers are very unclear in this metaphor she's using of the marathon. It doesn't work. If you do the Boston Marathon, there's specific mile markers all throughout the Boston Marathon that every marathoner understands and knows. Why are you not using those markers and really point out the big highlights of what happened in your life, in your journey that brings you to where you are? Because I don't think it just doesn't work.
No, but, it doesn't.
All right, let's keep it going.
You can laugh about it now, but let me tell you something. When you are in your mid-20s and suddenly you start to realize that up is down and down is up. The people that I thought were racist and backwards and wanted to put me back in chains actually kind of just believe in free markets and capitalism and are being lied about on the mainstream media. You go through this period of cognitive dissonance where you're like, am I crazy? This can't be right. Am I about to open an article on Fox News? And you're so ashamed, you hide it from your friends and family. You do this in your bedroom, you scroll and you're I'm just gonna see what they're saying, these crazy racists. And the more that I did that, I saw this whole other world that I had been completely lied about. And I just thought, wow, how could I have been so severely propagandized? And then that cognitive dissonance transformed into this thirst for real knowledge. And I decided I was going to start reading all of these authors who I had dismissed as, Uncle Toms and coons and race traders. Man, the joke was really going to be on me in a couple of years, as I was going to be called all of those names. And I started reading Dr. Ben Carson and Clarence Thomas, and Thomas Sowell really was for me like lights on, because he really presented the economic arguments in a way that just made so much sense. And I said, okay, my late teen, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and I'm just simply going to say that I'm Black and I'm conservative, and that's it. And that was, wow, the media completely came after me. They attacked me. They called me all of those things that I had formerly called Dr. Ben Carson and Thomas Sowell. And I went, wow, well, you know what? It's okay, because I have finally arrived at the truth. And at that mile 18, my truth that I had finally arrived at, that I was convinced was the truth, was just, it's about free markets. They don't want people to have an opportunity. We have to defend free markets. We have to defend capitalism. And then I started working with Turning Point USA, and I hit the ground running. And suddenly, I'm
Okay, and I know a lot of people. I know, and you're welcome to tell me, like, Jason, stop, just stop. Go ahead.
Okay, I think I was past this, and I was like, I still have not heard Jesus. Okay, you read the writings of all of these great authors and intellectuals, but did they mention Jesus? Did they point you to Jesus? Is that like your testimony? And I find it interesting. I know we paused it at the TPUSA portion,
right?
But it's ironic, because what do we know post-assassination of Charlie Kirk? There was a revival. There was this great knowing about his strong faith. So how about having that part as her testimony? And then my good friend Charlie Kirk, who used TPUSA as a vehicle to spread the gospel, to spread the message about Jesus Christ. There was none of that. And that would be a hallmark for any Christian. Even if you were already a baby Christian, that would have been a hallmark, a mile marker of some sort, that there was the great recognition that the gospel was preached through this particular organization, but not TPUSA, not the works of the intellectuals. Nothing yet has talked about Jesus, his character, or any of the apostles, or any of the characters in the Bible that has impacted her. And I think that those are great hallmarks for any Christian in their testimony. That's just my 2 cents.
No, and I think you're 1,000% correct. And she could have easily said, hey, TPUSA, and we stopped, and I know we'll keep it playing. Now, y'all listen and see if we missed it. But, TPUSA, she could even say merge politics and Christian values, merge conservatism and Christian values, and help. And she could do that and all that kind of stuff, and argue for free market as well as for family and all this kind of, she could have did that. Notice I said could have did that. There's a reason why I said she could have did that. Let's keep it going.
Running around with so many evangelical Christians that are in the political space as well. And I'm going, yes, and this feels good, because I've been missing this faith part, this component of faith that I walked away from. And suddenly I'm going back to church again. And
So wait, she walked away from faith. Notice she walked away from faith.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny. When did you ever have faith? I'm trying to find that on what mile was that where you actually had faith, but not
right. Because it's interesting, because there are testimonies out there of people who are saved. They somehow derail their themselves, and they fall away from faith. But then they're like the prodigal son, where they return back to faith. But even those stories are very they're big markers in your life. And those little testimonies of falling off and coming back on are even illustrative of God's love and God's grace. So I think if I'm hearing Candace in her world, in her mind, if she's talking about when she said, I wanted to be cool, I wanted to be secular, and that was her falling away from faith, that isn't really illustrated as a testimony. It's just like kind of her going into politics and talking about herself and talking about her achievements and things like this, but they're not illustrated as a Christian testimony, at least from how I hear it.
Yeah. And I think if we ask Candace, and I've asked this before, I've put the bounty out there. If somebody can give me a video of Candace actually explaining the gospel, please send it to me. I will 100% give it its opportunity to shine. But right here, there isn't again, her conservatism is her faith. I don't think that's a lap too far. And yeah, sure, your grandfather had you studying the Bible for breakfast and you get a hot chocolate mug. Please tell me that your Christian faith is more than that. Please tell me it's more than that. So when she's going to start talking about going to church, and I got mad problems with this. So I'm going to go ahead and let it tease out because I'm going to be right back in a hot second with my problems with this.
This is great and it's amazing, and there's singing and there's like concerts. It feels like a Justin Bieber concert. This is great. This is awesome. Who wouldn't want this? We need to spread the good word. And I get to talk about my faith journey on stage to college students and make them aware that the truth, the real truth, is that they just don't want us to have free markets. And if we don't have free markets, then we're all just going to be enslaved. Socialism, that was my big truth, that socialism was evil.
That's the big truth. Free markets is the big truth.
No.
Yep.
No.
Free market. I mean, I don't know what to say. She said she was going to church. She said that we got to spread the good word.
Yeah. And isn't the core of Christian testimony is the clear confession of Christ, that he is crucified and risen. And
yes.
Without reference to his person and work, we risk presenting morality or intellect instead of redemption.
I don't know what I don't even know what she's talking about. I agree with you 100%. I have no idea what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And again, like the good word. That's the good word, y'all. I mean, yeah, this does sound like a TED Talk. It does. It's a spiritual TED Talk at best. Yeah. So this is her. And again, Candace does this quite a bit. She takes a caricature of a topic and makes that the full representation of the topic. So like all black men are like she'll say George Floyd represents all black men. He don't represent me. He don't represent me at all. So no, but you'll use him as a caricature for all black men, or bonnet slides and pajamas represents all black women. Nope, they don't represent my wife nor my daughters or my mom. I got too many that they don't represent. Sorry, that don't work. And the idea that church is just a feel good concert, a Justin Bieber concert, man, I don't know where you went. I can't vouch for where you went, but it clearly didn't help. It didn't help you. And she does that a lot. She just picked this bad example. And I really believe she knows it's a bad example because she was around people that I'm pretty sure the example wasn't what they saw. I mean, so all Charlie was doing was playing Justin Bieber like Christian music. Like, really? Like, doesn't make sense. Yeah. She skips over all of that good stuff. But go ahead.
You guys will see that she genericizes these examples at a very high level caricature of what Christianity is. Like, notice that it's the Justin Bieber concerts. Like, okay, so mega church, like, did you go to a mega church? Is that where you started going to church and going back and attend? You know what I mean? Like, it's just a caricature of Christianity. And you're going to see a lot of these themes as we proceed with the rest of her testimony.
I don't know how to spell genericizes. This might be it. Y'all put genericizes in the chat. I like genericizes. I don't know if that's a real word. You might have made that up. That might have been a real word. I like genericize. I don't know how to spell it. Bonus points if you actually know how to spell it. Shout out. I like that. Is that a real word?
There you
go. And then,
Avengers got it.
This thing happened. And I sort of looked up and I realized that very quickly the media can create another religion. And I should call this a form of paganism. You get the kids and they're crying over climate change and you see it in their eyes. They believe in this thing. They think they're atheists, but they're not atheists, these kids know. They just have misplaced their faith into something that is man-made, and they're skipping school because the planet's going to be over. And one of these pagan gods was created on the day that George Floyd died. My life is good. You know, people are kind of going, okay, she's going to be around. And, you know, the way people were feeling so impassioned about this, the smart advice would have just been to not, you know, just don't question this particular narrative. And, you know, Black Americans are super upset. But I just knew that there were some lies that were being told. And, you know, I made a conscious decision to present some other facts that the media was rather mistakenly omitting or very intentionally omitting as they were establishing this as the new pagan god. And the video that I published on my Facebook, speaking about the history of George Floyd, who he was as a human being before this tragic ending, no doubt, a tragic ending, talking about the drug addiction, was the most viral video I've ever done. 100 million views worldwide.
Pause right there.
And then the
she,
media really came.
Hit me.
she really missed an opportunity if she were knowledgeable on the word to, you know, point this back to Queen Jezebel and Ahab and their statewide.
She could do that.
State-sponsored, you know, pagan worship, and the, you know, kind of go into the illustrations of the Ashtoreth poles, and this is how they worshipped, and this is how it's comparable to George Floyd, and you know the statues that they erected out of the whole situation, and comparing that to the calf worship, and you know it's mind-blowing to me that these are opportunities to share the gospel and they're completely missed and washed away.
That is, see, and that was my issue. You know, I came on YouTube in 2020 and I started my channel in a response to the responses of George Floyd. My first video went up on September 11th, 2021. Yeah, 2021. So I've been on 4 years. And my point is, in bringing that up is, I noticed that many of us, we were gospel light. And that's why the channel was initially called Dear Woke Christian, because there were Christians that were doing things that were completely not Christian at all. And I would argue with them in Twitter, argue with them in social media about what does the actual gospel say. And this would have been a prime opportunity for Candace to discuss that and share like why worshiping George Floyd is problematic, why worshiping Derek Chauvin is problematic, why all of these things. If your identity rules your faith, there's a problem there. There is a problem.
Right.
Being able to talk about that, but she doesn't understand that.
Right.
Yeah. I like this right here. You can't share something you don't have. Candace was not a Christian. She just identified as one. And I hate to say, I would like to know, what did she identify before she came to TPUSA? Lots of people were saying that she was praying to the universe before she came to TPUSA. Even the video that we watched earlier from her convocation at Liberty University, she talks about the universe pretty openly. She says the universe quite a bit. I'm wondering if she was, in fact, a universalist or some kind of new ager back then. And then once she came to TPUSA, again, recognizing a hole and a gap in the opportunity, she jumped in as a Christian.
And that's a good point, because if anybody's been paying attention, as a lot of us content creators who are exposing the truth about, you know, all this cult-like Candace following, a lot of her podcasts recently have been peppered in with occultism. It has been peppered in with some new age theology. You know, first of all, Charlie Kirk, there was one where she said Charlie Kirk is watching all of this and we're united. He's watching all of this go on as if, because she had just got done putting fire towards TPUSA, that they weren't acting the way that they should be acting, and all of the associates, in the sense that they're not releasing details. Well, hello, anybody with sense would know that investigations don't work like that, especially when it's directly involving an entity that Charlie Kirk was part of. So they're not going to just release all the details, and that's probably why I'm going to say it's 99.9999%. There's a 99.9% chance why they're not hearing TPUSA release details or footage or anything like that, because they're probably part of an investigation. And so after that, she's insinuating that they have something to do with it, and she's saying that Charlie Kirk was watching over all of this. Then
Yep.
there was the Charlie Kirk visited her in a dream.
In a
You know,
dream.
it's right. So it's like all of these little occult themes that are being peppered in her podcast, and they're very sneaky. But those are the most dangerous, I think, the most dangerous injections, because people are just hearing this and they're like, yeah, oh wow, so we can blindly trust her unchallenged, so it's still there. That's
It's still
what
there.
I'm trying to say. It's still there.
No, I agree with you 1,000%. Let's keep it going. Let's go.
For me. I mean, you wouldn't believe the attacks. It was unbelievable. But at the same time, despite the media smearing me and maiming me and caricaturing me, there was also just so many people that came to me and said, thank you, Candace, for saying this. I've been fearful to talk about this or talk about any facts because we are all being so seized by this race narrative. And I thought, this is it. This is the big one. I have finally landed on the truth.
All right, I'm going to let her land on the truth, and I'm going to take a station break. We're going to take a station break real quick, and shout out to everybody who's jumped in to the most electrifying live chat on the planet. 900 people? What in the world? Shout out. It's got to be you, Natalie, because they are not coming to hear me. It's got to be you. They saw your picture. They said, we got to go see what Natalie's got going on. What's happening over there? Shout out. Thank y'all so much. Make sure y'all hit the like button if you don't mind. Real quick, there's a couple supers, and I want to talk about something that's not even germane to this case right now. Don't call everything a conspiracy like they do, and don't live in dread of what frightens them. Isaiah 8:12. I agree with you. Thank you so much, Lambert, for the $5 super. And that's part of this is why I wanted to bring this up, is because if you live in conspiracies, and y'all know hey, look, your boy got a little bit of tinfoil lined in the baseball cap too, right? I like a little conspiracy every now and then, but if you live in it, you will be like this. You will be depressed. You won't have any hope. So shout out. Thank you so much for that. And what does MT say here? Natty, do you have an email? And I shot that email out. Moz, you can please drop Natalie's email. MT, her email is in the chat already. Question. Thank you so much, MT, for the $2 super. Question. My question is there a link to people who call themselves Christian and become obsessed with conspiracy? I think you're saying conspiracy. Why do people want to be all knowing? I think it's just, well, do you want to jump on this, Natalie? I have a reason why. Do you have
Yeah. I think, from my perspective, from what I've seen, we have seen a lot of symbology in our, the mainstream narratives, especially in the recent years. We've seen
sure.
them, and I've pointed a lot of these things out that are directly, calling out the occultic symbology that they use in some buildings. Some of the, it's there, it's right in our face. And so I think that's why we had the thrill of our life in recent years calling this stuff out, because it's like, no, look at what you're consuming. Look at all this symbology in the music videos and, in the architecture. And, some of it does connect to paganism, which is what the Bible does call out, the occult. So I think that is the doorway, is the occult, the obsession with the occult. But you have to balance this out. You can't just be obsessed with the occult and not also take in God's word as a balance. God's word is the water. He is the living life, right? So it's like, I think people just become obsessed with it. Unfortunately, and here's another good point too. The reason why this lands with Christians, conservatives, and Candace is because we, for a long time, could not, and we probably still can't trust a portion of our government. I am a little bit more optimistic, in my personal opinion. I'm a little bit more optimistic with the administration and the changes and the leadership. We don't see all of the battles that are going on in the political sphere of the office. We don't see all that. So they might be battling a lot that we don't see. With that being said, I'm a lot more optimistic with our administration now, with our government. But for a long time, we could not trust our government. They were lying to us. We caught them. They were forcing us to do things that we didn't want to do. And so that is what created this rebellion. We're not going to listen. They're lying to us. Blah,
They're
blah,
lying
blah.
to us.
And so
Yeah.
a lot of people are just continuously exploiting that, unfortunately. And that's why I see a lot of conservatives influencing Christians, weak Christians,
Hmm.
into this conspiracy mind virus because they're not strong in their faith. That's from my perspective.
No, I love it. I'm going to take both of these questions and I'm going to answer them together. This one right here. We just said that. Thank you, CU. And then also Avengers Assemble. Thank you for the $5 super. Christianity and Judaism attracted lots of Gnostics. And I'm going to just say real simple. It's Genesis chapter 3. When the snake went to the woman and said, if you eat this apple, you're going to know everything. You're going to know good and evil.
Yeah.
And because the conspiracy was that God was keeping something from them. That was the conspiracy. God isn't telling you everything. And if you eat this apple, you shall be like God, knowing good and evil. And Eve said, let's go. Let's get at it. And now you see where we are. So to the reason why people are like this, because we ultimately just want to know stuff. We're nosy. Okay, we're nosy. I'll tell you a fun story, real quick story. So after church today, I was walking out to my car, and there was a mom and her two little boys, and they were the little boys. They told their mom they wanted to run around. There's a lot of energy, they said, and she said, "Go ahead and run." There's a little grassy field area, and there's a little walkway that goes into the woods. And the little boys are running down there. I said, "Hey, y'all, don't go down there." I said, "That's how all the scary movies get started." and the mom got it. And I said, "Don't you hear the music?" I said, "That's how all the scary movies get started." Somebody being nosy, going somewhere that you don't need to go. And this is what exactly I think the problem is with us. We just want to know stuff that we're not supposed to know. And we're headstrong to know it. Thankfully, the little boys when their mom told them to come back, they listened. But we don't. We don't listen. We like, no, I'm going to find this out. I'm going to find out because you're keeping something from me, Natalie. You're keeping something from me, Jay Witt, and I want to know it. And how dare you not tell me?
Yeah.
And then we open ourselves up to all the things that you were just talking about. But go ahead.
Take it a step further. If they don't want you to know, they're controlled opposition and they're being paid to keep us from knowing.
There you go.
Give me my serpent.
Give me my 7,000 shekels. Go ahead, man. Go on and give me my 7,000. And shout out here, Mom, this has been proven false. I'm sorry. Did you hear that the French government listed Brigitte as a man? No, I did a video earlier today about this. That isn't true. Long story short, spoiler alert, that's not true. It was more than likely hacked. And you can read the articles. We went over all the articles related to it, went over the tweets, even looked at Grok, for crying out loud. We went through all of it. Yeah, this wasn't true. So, but I appreciate it though. And think about it. If it was true, wouldn't Candace be doing end zone dancing right now? She would be doing it right now. It would have been all over everywhere. It's nowhere because it wasn't true. Shout out for sure. But thank y'all so much for the supers. Okay. All right, Natalie, we'll get back to your friend. We got to get back to the story.
Let's go.
Here we go. Let's roll.
The truth is that the government wants to divide us, and it's worse than that. They want to attack our family. That was the final truth. I thought, this is it.
Where's Jesus?
And so la-di-da, I survived it, and there's now suddenly this clear understanding to me that what I have to fight for beyond anything else, above everything, is family. At this time, I met my husband. We're having our first child. Life is great. I've got a show now that's 5 days a week, and I'm speaking about the importance of the nuclear.
She done nuked a whole bunch. I mean, she has nuked a ton of her story.
Yeah.
She's got a husband now. So we're like, what? Wait, when did she get married? I thought she got married before the Summer of Love. I thought so.
Yeah,
she got married before then.
Exactly. But I want to say that's true.
Yeah, she got married. But anyway, man, she's skipping a whole lot. And now she's talking about she's got a show. Okay, let her go. Yeah, I thought so. She got married in 2019.
Yeah.
So, this was already, she seems to be skipping a lot of key elements that I think will help shade this story, but let's go.
Family taking people through the Marxist agenda of BLM. I'm doing a documentary explaining to people, why it is that.
What something that I wanted to mention. So when I heard that part, they want to attack. What she said something generic. God, is that what she just said? That they're wanting to attack God or Christ, but she doesn't really elaborate. Oh, you're on mute.
Let's play it again.
And so la-di-da, I survived it, and there's now suddenly this clear understanding to me that what I have to fight for beyond anything else, above everything, is family. At this time, I met my husband. We're having our first child. Life is great. I've got a show now that's 5 days a week, and I'm speaking about the importance of the nuclear family, taking people through the Marxist agenda of BLM. I'm doing a documentary explaining to people, why it is that Marxists hate the family so much, this threat. It proposes a threat to the state, a strong nuclear family, and we've got to make sure that we get that.
Okay, she is once again another huge missed opportunity to share the gospel. They're attacking the body of Christ. This is how they're attacking the body of Christ. This is why the nuclear family is part of Christ's plan and his creation. Yep. That the man governs the household, and under the right by the man is the man governs the household,
Christ.
the wife, the child. Christ over everything. She misses that entire structure, and she could use that to really spread the good news, but she's like not even mentioning how the body of Christ is being attacked and why the nuclear family, God's creation, being attacked is actually an attack on God's godly principles. You know what I mean? Like
right.
That in itself is a testimony.
Like there's no, okay, this is why the nuclear family represents this, and this is why everybody's fighting against the nuclear family.
Right.
Or
exactly.
whoever. Like, again, there's no, and again, she just says, that it's fighting against family, which I agree, but why? Why it's family? Why they're not fighting against my ashy toes? Why is it family? Why they're not fighting against guys with blue hats on? Why is it family? There's a reason why that is the case.
Why. Right.
And my toes are not ashy, by the way.
And she could even expound on that too, because it wasn't just they're attacking the family. They're trying to destroy the nuclear family by promoting the degeneracy of, the multi-sexual genders and preferences and things like this. And they're trying to destroy the nuclear family and from us procreating. I mean, there's just so much that she could go into, but she doesn't. And you're right. She nukes an entire portion of her testimony, because I would think like when you meet your significant other and she's talking about her faith first of all. So is your significant other, like, is he a Christian?
A part of your faith?
Like,
right.
Yeah. Did he lead you to Christ more? That to me is like a big part of her testimony, but she's just like, oh, I met my husband, got married, had a baby, have a show. Whoa,
like that's a lot of stuff. Again, like I said, these mile markers in this marathon metaphor are not working, because I think meeting your significant other should be a mile marker. It should be a mile marker. Right. Call me crazy. Right.
Right.
Yeah. She's definitely, again, she's speed running through it. And maybe she's just, to me, it would seem like this would be very key, because she's at a conference, a Catholic convention, talking about this topic. So family and faith, it's not like you're talking in enemy territory,
right,
so to speak, right? You should be talking about this.
You should be comfortable.
Right. All right, let's keep it rolling. Let's go.
But that wasn't really the big truth. This is kind of like the last 4 miles of the marathon, and things are good. And then this being drawn more to the concept of family, and I'm recognizing that my husband, I'm a Protestant, but he's a Catholic. And at this same time, he is just being drawn more and more and more into the church. And
okay, so we have not at all, we're starting her conversion into Catholicism. We turn the blinkers on, we turn right into her conversion into Catholicism. I don't even know when she became a Christian. She said she was a Protestant. Like, I don't know since when. And somebody's been asking about, I'm dropping the link to this video so you can see the full thing without us adding our color commentary. It's from iCatholic Radio. So I just dropped the link in the chat for those people that are asking. When did you become a Christian? You just say you're a Protestant. Based on what?
Right. From what years were you a Protestant, right? And what did you believe before as a Protestant? And we're about to go into the momentous.
Yeah, we're going to find out what she believes. Yeah, but what did you believe? I don't know. All right, let's go.
Right.
He's going to mass every day. Can you imagine? I'm going on Sundays to a nice concert. This guy's looking, he's got objects in his hand. His whole office has transformed. Like, what is going on with you, man? What's going on? And I was just curious, you know? It was more the mystery of the side of my husband that I didn't quite understand. What are you getting up so early for? To go to mass? You know, you just went there. You were just there. Just gonna go on Sunday, just check in, you know? And I'm starting to have these conversations with him, and I'm listening, but, you know, not really comprehending. And he says to me, I start prodding to him about his faith journey and trying to understand why he made the decision to convert into the Catholic faith when he was at university. You know, what he studied theology, he decided to convert.
Okay, I gotta stop for a second. I'm still bothered by just how polar opposite she and her husband are.
Right.
I'm still not convinced. Why did he want to marry her? Like, what was it that stood out? Like, what was it that made him 18 days after he met her ask her to marry him? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Go ahead.
And I will also say, because I have a girlfriend who she was a Protestant and converted to Catholicism when she met her soon-to-be husband, and that was a whole conversation before. So to me, that showed importance, like that. And this isn't every I don't think this is every Catholic. I'm just saying, like, I would think that devout Catholics are like, I need you to be Catholic. You know, like if we're gonna do this, I need you to be Catholic and do the conversion or the agreement before they get married. As at least this is an example that I've seen in real life. So you're onto it, because it's like, so he knew she was a Protestant, he married her, and then it was like that conversation came later.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand it. And I talk to content creators all the time, and we joke about it. I'm like, let me make sure I got this right. He's white, she's black. He's European, she's American. He's from wealth, she's from poverty. He's very low key, she's extremely boisterous and outspoken. But he looked at that and said, I got to put a ring on it. Okay. I just don't know how it works. I just don't know I don't know how that worked. And it's funny because he was, even though he was, I guess you could say he was backslidden. He wasn't practicing Catholic, if you will, but he wasn't gonna run and become a Baptist next Tuesday. You know, he wasn't gonna pop up and be a Presbyterian. He was a Catholic. So now he's gonna start talking about him like becoming more fervent and more involved in it. But still, like, y'all never talked about this. And this is why when people are mad at me because I'm talking about the 18 days, I'm like, you do realize that doesn't make sense. Like, so y'all didn't go through any premarital counseling to talk about your faith.
Right.
Before, like how y'all going to raise the kids and whatnot like that. Really? Okay.
And at this point, it's like your question still begs, is this like the testimony, or has she talked about like her becoming a Christian first before she's even talking about the conversion? No,
at this point, let's just tell the truth, shame the devil. She's not a Christian. She's going to become a Catholic. That's just what it is. That's what we're going to say. Because, I mean, she's told us nothing about her faith wait. His father is a major Protestant lord who's very, okay. I don't know if he's Protestant, but okay. But nothing that would cause me to say, oh, she was in the faith and then became a Catholic. There's nothing about that I've seen or read or heard. And y'all tell me, y'all let me know, because We are, I don't know what mile we're on. We've got our blinker on. We're turning onto Catholic lane. Here we go.
Yeah.
Maybe I do this right. There we
And
go.
I'm starting to really get into the story to see what's driving him. And he says something to me that now rings in my head. He said, to become a student of history is to become a Catholic. So, yeah, what was he saying? Like, I wasn't a student of history? I went to public school. I took history.
So that means she didn't learn anything in church. You see what I'm saying? She immediately said, I went to public school. Not my grandfather taught me. Not I was catechized by my grandmother or my family or anything of the nature. She jumped to public school. Well, of course we know public school didn't teach you that.
Right. And you don't have to go to seminary to learn biblical history or to learn about
absolutely.
the Bible. You can open your Bible right now. Open the Bible app. Read through it. You can start right now. You don't have to go through seminary school or Bible college or anything like that. So the institution of which how you learn the biblical values is just your eyes to the book. It's not anything extra. There's no system that you have to go through.
No, and I would say it's always good to get learning, but you don't need learning and be, like you're saying, a theologian or anything of that nature to just understand the basics. And let's just be honest. Do you feel like she understood the basics? Like,
not at this point. I mean, even as a baby Christian, way back then, like over 10 years ago for me, like even as a baby Christian, you still have this understanding, and that's because you do obtain the Spirit. So the Spirit does some interpretation even through your baby lenses. You don't have seasoned understanding just yet. No, you're just a baby, but you still have the Spirit. And so even as a baby Christian, you have the Spirit and it has some form of interpretation. I don't resonate with her testimony, and even if she's speaking as a baby Christian there, I would still have, there's still some recognition that the Spirit does, with understanding biblical values, with the start to understand biblical values. I just don't see it right here at this very moment in this testimony.
No. And I would just ask, like, well, okay, then fine. What's the difference between her right now, what Candace has said right now, and a Muslim? Like, there's not one thing that she said, in my opinion, that's drastically different.
Right.
Except going to church. Maybe not using the word church. But besides that, if we bleeped out the word church, you couldn't tell me that this wasn't a Muslim saying this or a Mormon. You just can't. Okay.
So because I was interested in understanding my husband's faith and what was drawing him further into it, I started asking all of the questions and came up with all of the things. Well, like, you guys worship Mary. Yeah, it's not good. You shouldn't do that. What are all these objects here? You shouldn't be doing that. The Bible speaks against idolatry. You guys have heard all of the talking points over and over again. I'm now giving this to my husband. I said, but listen, in the spirit of healthy debate, I will set up a time for you to come on my show. My husband never does any publicity unless it is to speak about his faith. And to have a debate with Allie Stuckey. Known her for years, and she's so lovely. And I just really want this to be kind of like the great debate because, I think you guys are well matched. And she's going to speak on behalf of Protestants, and then you can speak on behalf of Catholics. And, good luck. I'm just going to be in the middle and watching this thing.
There's not one instance where I would say, hey, wife, lady of mine, hey, lady, dear, well, Christian, I disagree with you about this topic. And in order for us to get to a place of agreement, I want to have a public debate about it.
Right.
Honest, like, what? And this is not, let's go talk to our pastor. Let's go talk to our priest. Let's go, like, why does it have to be all performative?
Right.
So if I'm understanding correctly, most of us have seen that debate between her husband and Allie Beth Stuckey and Candace, because it was 2-on-1. And no, this is I can't imagine this. This doesn't even this sentence structure makes no sense. Oh, I'm having a debate or an issue with my wife. Let's go have a debate with somebody else. That's crazy work.
It sounds like it needs to be incredibly private, not like completely opposite.
Right.
It needs to be incredibly private. Like that sounds like something that you're, like that's a form of marital counseling that needs to be incredibly private, because that's a a fault line in your faith. Like
Absolutely.
they're opposites on how they believe, and that seems like that would necessitate some sort of wise counsel.
Right. And having a public debate, and I don't remember the format of their discussion between Allie and George, but that doesn't seem like any kind of thing that I would do. Yeah, like what kind of marriage are we talking about here? I don't know. This makes no sense. Shout out. Let's go.
And I was listening, and I thought my husband was making some pretty sound points. And then after this debate, and I promise you guys this is the truth, and I have to pull this up on my phone, in the comments section, this is when the beginning of the rest of my life began.
Okay, I want you to hear this, because this is her transformative. Not I went to the scriptures and I was convinced about Mary from the scriptures. Not that I was convinced about relics or saints or any of these other things. Any of these other things from the scriptures. Listen to what she said. Do you want to say anything before
or God visited me in a dream?
You know what? I might even say God visited you in a dream. I might actually give you that.
God has his very specific, special ways to talk to people. You know what I mean? Like some people can hear a message through the radio. They can hear it. They can read a book. They can read an article, and it's just like, whoa, that's the confirmation I was looking for. You know what I mean? Because you're praying about it. But it's like, you guys are going to see what we're talking about. This is the pivotal point of her Catholicism conversion, and it's bizarre to me. It's bizarre to me. It's my personal view.
It's very bizarre. And I'm just going to say this again. I do believe that God speaks to us in modern day. I do believe that. I do believe. And you can grab your Bible and you can read it, and you know what? You will hear God speaking to you. And if you need God to speak to you audibly, Jason, then what you do is you open up your Bible and you read it out loud, nice and clear, and you will hear God speaking. That's the most objective way possible to know that you've heard God speak. What she's about to do for us right here is none of the above. Here we go.
An unknown human being named Jose, who somewhere in the world is probably going, this began with me, wrote this under the debate regarding Protestants. Shallow doctrinal talking points just hide the unequivocal American dislike for royal authority. That's what's really going on. The idea that you can make your own denomination with the doctrinal tidbits that you like is quintessential to American freedom. Anybody can be president, anybody can be a pastor. Evangelical Christianity really is classic Americana in a religious costume. The fact that there are thousands of mutually incompatible Protestant denominations proves Protestantism as a whole cannot be the truth. It was politically convenient for the Northern European powers when it popped up to rival Rome, and then it adapted beautifully to the character of American society. Protestantism is more interesting sociopolitically than theologically. Ouch.
All right. So shout out to Jose. No way, Jose. So, you know what we can do? I think we could literally take that segment right there, that little 45 seconds, and spend an entire episode slicing that apart, because it's super problematic. And it actually, in my opinion, informed a lot of her bad theology and bad understanding of what Protestants believe. Because they love this 45 million quadrillion different denominations, as if the denominations believe something different.
Right.
This is super crazy, but go ahead.
No, I mean, and somebody in the comments even said, huh? Because I heard that little segment and I was like my brain is fritzing out and there's smoke coming out of my ears because I don't even know what I heard just now. But that was it for Candace somehow. Like there was no understanding. There was no reiteration of scripture, of God's love, of his presence, his character, which there are multifaceted characters. None of that is mentioned. None of that is mentioned alongside with your pivotal moment and your Christian testimony. None of that is mentioned. But this one comment from I'm going to assume a YouTuber named Jose that
Shout out
had
to Jose.
a whole bunch of literary flowers describing denominations, that's what did it for you? I mean,
But
okay.
let me tie all of my shenanigans this week together. You notice that I've dropped several videos about Candace's husband and their relationship, how they got together. And the reason I did that is I wanted to show you, as we were coming to today, I wanted to show you that Candace makes changes, life-altering changes, based on no evidence whatsoever, none whatsoever. From her conversion to Catholicism, from liberalism to conservatism, from her choice and husband. Like, none of this stuff is rooted and grounded and tied to anything except something simple as a comment, a YouTube comment. Like, something that simple. So let's keep it going. Let's roll. Let's go. What are they clapping about? What you clapping about?
It was the seed. It was the seed that planted, and I just went, oh my, is this classic Americana? Is this everything that I say about the left? Is this sort of like my truth, my truth, my truth, as opposed to the truth? And I just knew, when I read that comment, I knew that Protestantism for me was over. And I began to
So that comment, I might, Nat, we might have to have you come back, and we can just literally, we might have to come back to that and just chop that part out and just look at that. Like, for real? Like, are you so for real right now?
Right. I need that comment transcribed, because I need to be able to also fact check and historically, historically check that comment to make sure that it sounds. But again, it's just, there's so many literary flowers and there's so many mystics and things that are added to it. And it's like, this is what did it for you, not simply God's spirit. And like,
Right.
and that is indicative in any part of her testimony. But it was a YouTube comment that did some sort of impactful pivot.
Right. They did the theological nujitsu on you and got you. Because let me make sure I got it right. So you were saved by grace and by grace alone, through Christ and Christ alone, for God's glory alone. You read a comment and now you want to add to Christ. You want to add to faith. You want to add to God's glory, add to scripture.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I got this correct, because I might have missed a step or two. Like, why? Explain it to me. Why?
Right.
Yeah, we're going to get into this is wild. Let's go.
examine my brain of thinking about why I did say all of these things about Catholics. Like, where did it come from? Why is it that everybody who has an issue with Catholics is saying the exact same cookie cutter thing? Clearly, these aren't our ideas. So who's instilling them in our heads? And then I thought about everything I had said on stage for years about the public education system, creating little Marxists, the public education system, intentionally making Black Americans and white Americans fight and believe in this sort of race narrative. It's being instilled in us, I said, They're lying to us intentionally. These classrooms have become propaganda centers. And then I started going, well, if everything that I learned in school and thus far I've recognized as a lie. They're pushing feminism. It's all anti-family. They're pushing transgenderism. They're pushing all of these isms. What if what I learned about the Catholic faith was wrong?
Let me, two things. She missed another opportunity. We need to keep a running total of how many opportunities she misses. Right. Feminism and communism and all these isms that that they've been teaching in school. I do believe that they're teaching that, and you should be able to derail that from the scriptures. Right. You are going to have to convince me that they're actually teaching about Catholicism in public school. I got to see that. You're going to have to show me that in the year of our Lord, 2025, that they're teaching Catholicism or about Catholicism in any real meaningful way. You know what? I'm 50 years old. You're going to have to show me. I've never seen that. So you're going to have to show me that in real time. You're going to have to show me that. Public education that taught about Catholicism in the public arena. No. It just didn't happen. So you didn't get your belief about Catholicism from public education. Go ahead.
Right. No, it's she's making this as if this is like a big conspiracy. Once
She
again,
likes that.
yeah, as if like the whole world is against her being Catholic, but it's like she couldn't even illustrate her being a Protestant before then. So it's like, what are your what were your beliefs before, and
Hmm.
in comparison to Catholicism now?
What did they
Why
tell you?
can't
What were you
she,
taught? Right.
right? Why can't she illustrate on that? And I would think that many Catholics who are converts can expand on that. I believe that there are Catholics that can do that,
Yeah.
right? And not necessarily that I wouldn't agree with that doctrine, but I know that there are Catholics that can expound on their experience and their conversion. And, just hold on if you are Catholic, because we want to ask you a question at the end, because I personally am not Catholic. I'm just a non-denominational and evangelical. But there is some sort of perspective that I personally want to understand, because it's going to help me witness to you guys better. But anyway, with that being said, there's a portion of Catholics that I'm like, I
Isn't
know
that
that they're
weird?
out
When I
there.
go
Sorry
through,
about that.
It's okay. I know that they're out there, that they have a very strong conviction about their testimony and their conversion.
Hmm.
I just don't hear it from Candace Owens herself.
And I'm willing to give you that, maybe she doesn't, but when you see how clear and demonstrative she is on other topics, this is a glaring hole in her persona. Because, she'll fight you, come at me, bro, about, she picks fights with presidents of countries, for crying out loud. She can't tell us about the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. She busy talking about Christ as King, saying it like a pejorative, saying it like a cuss word, but you can't tell us what Christ has done in your life. Okay.
Right.
Okay. That's what I'm supposed to believe. I got you.
Right.
Let's dance.
public school
Exactly.
system, and I come out being anti-Catholic. It's very strange. And I started wondering about history, real history, not the public education kind. And what I came across was a lot of questions, really a lot of questions that people didn't even want me raising. I went back, ironically, to that nuclear bomb that we dropped on Japan, and learned a little bit more about that, and learned that we dropped it in Nagasaki, 300 yards away from praying Catholics, destroyed the burgeoning Catholic city of Nagasaki, wiped out the burgeoning Catholic city of Nagasaki.
Is it odd to you that Candace always seems to find herself on the end of being a victim?
Right.
Somehow or
Right.
another, she's going to find herself, and she's going to find a way to be a victim, or or side with the victim.
Side with the victim. Well,
Right.
in her perception of victimhood, she
That is
paints
correct.
victimhood. She paints it. She illustrates it, and then that's where she can, she can direct her following to also persecute, people. How do I articulate this? She paints who the victim is, and she's able to direct her following to,
To
to side with the victimhood.
Yeah,
That's the best way I can put it.
because if you look back at this story, remember back, I don't remember what mile we were on, mile 5 or something, when she was standing up against her mean social studies teacher about the bomb. Remember that?
Right.
Now she's bringing it back full circle. So she's actually trying to create this narrative that I had like some precognition about, that it was wrong back then on mile 7. Now I'm at mile 25, and now I got it, because they destroyed this burgeoning Catholic community that was going on when they dropped the bomb, because they dropped the bomb to get rid of some burgeoning Catholics in Japan. That's why they did it. Not for any other reason, but only to get rid of the Catholics in that area.
That is some interesting pathology that you are bringing to light here, because she's doing the same thing on her podcast today with Charlie Kirk. I predicted my producer's pregnancy. These are the text messages to prove that. And now I'm going to present the idea that Charlie Kirk visited me in a dream. So that way, you can trust her unchallenged.
And what he said is true, because what I said to my producer when she was pregnant was true.
Right.
Right. So never mind that the Bible speaks against this activity. Never mind that the dead don't come back and visit us. Never mind that. All I'm going to do is say, hey, I had a premonition about my producer being pregnant. She was having a boy. So therefore, Charlie Kirk came back to visit me and said he was betrayed.
Right.
It's got to be true. It's got to be. Let's dance.
I'm saying that it's a conspiracy. I'm just saying that it's weird that it wasn't mentioned. And then I started wondering, why was I told that these were the Dark Ages? You mean the Catholic ages? Is that what we're really talking about? And then I started to learn more about the Spanish Inquisition. Oh, those evil Catholics. And then I started learning the truth about the Crusades. And I started wondering, how could it be that every time I learn about Catholic history, something is being intentionally omitted, misrepresented, with the end result being in school that I am supposed to walk away thinking that Catholics are evil.
No, but
And that sort of made me desire.
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, nobody is saying that Catholics are evil. I don't think that's like a main thing. That's not happening.
And again, I don't think you were taught in school that Catholics are evil. I'm going to need to see some curriculum. I'm going to need to see Miss Bumblebee's social studies tests that say Catholics are evil. No, I understand the Dark Ages. There's a reason why it was called the Dark Ages. Absolutely. I understand about Crusades. There was a reason why it was called that and what happened. But no, I don't think what she's saying is even remotely what actually transpired. I do think that later on, this is some revisionist history that she's reading into it now that she is a Catholic. And she can read into it why she wants this to be the case, or why this is a story that I think she's just crafting it. I'm no other way around it. I think she's just crafting a narrative. But okay, let's keep it dancing.
And thirst to know more. Maybe I'm being crazy again. Maybe it's just it happens to be the circumstance that whoever's printing the textbook seems to have this strange focus on misrepresenting the Catholic faith. And it's funny when things happen, when I got baptized, and following that point, I then went into a period of study again at the Brompton Oratory, and I wanted to ask every question. And as I was in London, and Father Julian and Father Rupert were answering everything, and they really explaining to me, and they were quite miffed by the whole thing, just like, what goes on in America? Like, do you guys know anything about your own history?
So I think it's interesting. I'm a Presbyterian, and I left purpose-driven church and became a Presbyterian. If anybody wants to, I'll tell you this story. It's a long story. However, I didn't spend a lot of time digging into the weeds of Presbyterianism. I know that Presbyterians, PCA, they have a little bit of history that maybe is not as favorable to Black people. I got you. They got the history. We talked about that. My pastor and I sat down and talked about that for a long time. We aired it out. We got it together, and I'm good to go with it. But what we talked about more was my understanding of who Christ is and how do I know that I'm saved? And those kind of real meaty matters that really at the end of the day matter. Those meaty matters matter way more than whether or not I understand the divide between the PCA and PCUSA and the history thereof. To me, I would love to know, did she get any other like real teaching, real discipleship apart from just history, going through history lessons? Say, see, we really weren't that bad during the Inquisition. We were not that bad during the Crusades. They have misrepresented us on Nagasaki. But what about Christ? And I think this lends itself to my point that I made before. Candace gets lost in the weeds and never deals with the issue that really need the real meaty matters. So that's why she can get lost in a underground bee commune or Ninja Turtles or an Egyptian plane and miss the big picture because she's focusing on these little tiny nuances that maybe are just coincidences. Maybe they have no bearing whatsoever, but they don't matter. But the things that really matter, they will never enter the group chat.
And it seems like her testimony is more political. Like she's talking about the politics of the classroom and the politics the societal constructs and things like this. But she's again just piggybacking off your point. She's not talking about Christ. Where is he? Where's his face in all of this?
He is not in the group text at all. He is not in the group text at all. Jesus' number is not in the group text. Everybody else's is, but not the Lord and Lord and King of Kings. So
Right.
I do think it's interesting that, and this is just really, and the reason why I played a lot of the videos I played this past week was because I wanted it to all lead to this, to show that a lot of what she says is not more to anything eternal. It's not more to anything that's everlasting. And it's just politics. It's just politics.
Right.
At the end of the day. Because I promise you, as sure as my name is Jason, if the right opportunity came up, she would be a leftist tomorrow. If the right opportunity comes up, she'll shed her conservative disguise and will be a leftist right there on MSNBC, right next to Rachel Maddow or on The View tomorrow. I promise you.
Yeah. It's far more lucrative to wear her mask, though. I do believe.
Right. Today.
Yeah.
I got you. Here we go.
I realized, wow, the Catholics really have just been waiting. They've just been waiting for people to learn history beyond the progressive neo-history that we are being taught in the classroom. And I was fascinated, and I felt that a fire had been lit inside of me. And so I did the thing that every excited Catholic does, jumped into the space with fervor, said to my husband, yeah, sure, let's do that pilgrimage you've been asking me about. How many of you guys have been on a Catholic pilgrimage before? Okay, there we go. How many?
Nothing about spending time learning, because she doesn't know anything. She doesn't know anything. So nothing about, let's sit down and spend some time in discipleship. Let's sit down and go to new members class, or let's go to new believers class and let's get re-catechized. Let me get some understanding. Nope.
First
let's
communion?
go. Yeah. Let's go do a 70-mile ruck. And that's going to be my conversion story.
You had a really interesting comment just come through that said something about she also causes division. I've always seen Catholics as my brother and sister, respect their views, but the way that she speaks, like we are evil and they are good, we just don't know enough history. It's the one above it.
No, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, there we go. It jumped. Okay.
Yeah, she causes division, and I have to agree. She does the whole gang like Catholic gang thing against Protestants, and even indicative in one of her podcasts about Charlie Kirk. I believe her falsely speaking to Charlie Kirk, and he was like, expressing that he wanted to convert to, what happened to my camera?
Right.
That he wanted to convert to the Catholicism, and she was like, "Well, if you were smart," and I'm paraphrasing here, but she was talking of ill of Protestants, like, "Well, if you were smart, you would convert to Catholicism."
Right.
Don't be a dumb Protestant or something like that. So,
she said, "You're too smart to be a Protestant."
Right.
Yep, and that's exactly what she said.
Right.
And look, we can have a conversation about Catholicism and what they believe. I do believe that the Lord saves people in Catholicism. The Lord can do that. So that's not my argument today. My argument and my position today is to look at Candace and whether or not, and just ask the question, was she ever a Christian to start with? And we're gonna now we're already turned onto Catholic Boulevard. We are well down the road. So now we are. I just want to know, when is Jesus going to enter the group chat? That's all I'm trying to say.
I just want to see his face. I just want to see him.
Right. And she does cause a lot of division, but that's part of her shtick. And that's why I don't think that she ever wasn't a leftist, because all she does, like her native tongue is division. It's not like, let me try to find a way to, where you see Charlie literally bending over backwards, putting himself in harm's way to be kind to Tucker Carlson, to still work with people. Candace Owens, for crying out loud. You don't see him trying his best to divide people and split people apart, whereas her native tongue is dividing people.
Right. Yep. That's exactly right.
So let's get it back on. Let's go.
You guys have done Charter. A lot more, yes. Yeah, even the Catholics are like, are you crazy? Yeah. 66 miles walking. And it's because I had no time to think that I said yes immediately. I said, yeah, that sounds great. I'm a baptized Catholic. Let's do it. And so I'll explain it to you guys for.
So I think this is a great point right here. Anyone reading and studying the Bible can find Christ. There's a problem, though. It's the reading and studying part that never enters into the chat. Like, when was she reading and studying to bring herself to that place? Like, she never makes a discussion about that. I mean, I can talk for 2 days about Ephesians chapter 2. I mean, don't get me started on Daniel. We can talk. We'll be here all night. But she never brings it up. If it mattered, she never brought it up.
I mean, just finding studies on Amazon, like Jen Wilkin is like one of my favorite Bible studies, because she makes you really, really, really dig in and think and meditate on it. Another good, they're called Seek and Find Bible Studies. They got a whole bunch of them, and they're just really deep. They make you dissect the word to such an extent that you never thought that you had the ability to do, and anybody can do that. But I've not heard her say like this particular character was impactful, and the way that she did this or that. You don't hear that from Candace, and I think that that's important for Christians to share your perspective on what you're reading and how you interpret Scripture.
Absolutely.
But I've yet, what are we like, almost 2 hours into this commentary, and we have not yet heard not one part of that.
We haven't heard Christ. I think it would be funny to right now ask her, hey, Candace, tell me your top 5 books of the Bible. I think she would actually glitch out and pass out on the floor. Like, I think she would. I don't. Okay, let's keep it going.
For those of you that are not aware of how that works, you show up in Paris, and you essentially the night before, you kind of meet with your group. That's 50,000 people that are going to walk 66 miles across 2.5 days with little more than whatever you can carry, your knapsack. And Father Witos, ours was the Australian U.S. group, and Father Witos led it, and everybody has a priest. Every group has a priest, about 20 people per group, and you do Latin prayers. On the first day, I guess I was back at what I would describe in my Catholic journey at mile 0. I didn't really know anything, but I was excited to be there, and I was concerned that the groups would move too slowly. If like, whoa, we have to walk with them. What if we want to walk ahead? My husband's like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Man, I was so wrong. I mean, right after you have the Mass to begin at the center of Paris, then you start walking, and in those first 7 miles, I realized that these French Boy Scouts are built different. They are built different. They are like super athletes, and I realized I'm going to be run walking this entire thing. And we've got the St. Joseph flag, and they're marching with it, and they just Latin prayers the entire time. I didn't know a single Latin prayer as we began. I think I now speak fluent Latin, so anybody who wants to just jump in to anything, and they're just marching. I mean, just like Spartans going to war. Salve Regina. I mean, it's amazing.
What's the purpose of this?
And again, we're now far down her TED Talk. You know what I mean?
TED Talk,
and it's
right.
like all I can recollect from this entire thing was, you studied the Bible as a kid, but then you skipped over a giant portion of your life, skipping over your pivotal testimony of when you accepted Christ into your heart, when you saw Christ's character show up in your life, when you saw hope play out, when, you went from that and your views to Protestantism. Which, what were those? What were those views to what made sense to convert to Catholicism, to now we're talking about politics in the classroom, and now we're talking about Boy Scouts in Paris on a hike. That, like,
Crazy
are
work.
we talking about a hike?
Like, this is nasty work. Now, granted, I will say this, though, she's talking to a group of Catholics. So this is a little bit of insider baseball about the whole, the pilgrimage that they're taking. But
Right.
it just sounds tiring. Like, why would I want to do that? Like, no, not for my spiritual maturity, of course. If I want to do it for some other reason, I got you. But like, when is Jesus going to enter into the text? I just want to know.
The first 7 miles, I felt good. I was like, this is good. First day, you're going 28 miles. But I was like, you know what, I got this. It's walking. How bad could this be? And I felt great about that. The first 7 miles, you take a quick little break, have some water. And then you get to mile 15 and it's a lunch break. And by a lunch break, it's a giant field. It's burning, blistering hot. And you just kind of sit on the grass and whatever you were able to pack, you can have. They also throw around bread boxes. You just see these cardboard boxes filled with bread and everyone kind of diving into it because you're so hungry after 15 miles. But truly, I was so hot and exhausted, I couldn't even physically eat. I was like, if I even look at some of this stuff, I'm going to throw up. And my husband and the French Boy Scouts were whipping out like cheese and croissants and salami. And there were little Boy Scout knives. And then they had this thing called pork butter. Ugh. And I'm like, you're not going to eat that. My husband just dipped right into the pork butter. He was doing great. He was totally fine. And then you continue on, and you're like, okay, I'm okay. But right around mile 18 is when you're going, uh-oh. Like, I am mentally and physically, like, I am so proud of myself for having made it to mile 18. But there's 10 miles left. Like, 10 miles left. And I don't know if
I got more information about the first 18 miles of this trek than anything about her Sunday school, anything about being raised, Baptist hymnals or whatever it was. Nothing. Not a thing about it. Go ahead.
Like you said, like, this is insider talk about the Catholic pilgrimage. It's completely there's just a lot I don't understand. Like, why are you in Paris? Like, why don't you explain that? Like, according to Catholicism pilgrimage, we're in Paris because we're doing this, because it signifies, and we try to identify with the long walk that Jesus Christ took with the cross.
Oh, it's not that though. It's not that. It's not the long walk of Christ. No, there's a reason why they're in Paris. Oh, you're going to hear it in a moment. There's a reason why they're in Paris and where they're marching to. But I'll just give you a little spoiler alert. It is not anything dealing with the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. I'll just ruin that for you right now. Sorry.
I can do this. And right then it started to torrential downpour. And so now you're moving at a sloth's pace because it's all just mud. You're going through the wood and you're completely soaked. And at this point, you start seeing people start tapping out. People are on the side. They're under those like aluminum-looking blankets. The EMTs are running. There are people that you're like, oh, are they going to be okay? And then, of course, the French Boy Scouts just running back and forth with them in stretchers. They're just, I'm like, what is going, how are you guys running? I mean, it's just whistling to each other, signaling, and I am just like, okay, I'm just gonna focus and try to stay in my own mind and just really, I got to get past this 18th mile. And I am telling you, the last break is at the 22-mile mark, and I'm just going, I can't stop, honey. I quite literally do not think I can move anymore. And I look over at my husband, and I'm thinking, I'm having like end-of-life thoughts, Like, I'm wondering, like, if our will is in order, and I'm thinking about the kids, and I kind of want to cry, and I'm just like, I can't physically take another step. I cannot do that. And I look at my husband, and he's also similarly in this thought. You can just see he's really thinking. And I say, honey, just thinking about the kids. What are you thinking about? And he was just like, could you imagine doing this in full suited armor in medieval times? And I realized that I had married a French Boy Scout by mistake. I just look at him, I'm like, and he says to me that he got a text message.
Say again?
Is this a comedy hour now? Did this turn into a stand-up?
Well, if you didn't accept a marriage proposal after 18 days, you might have had opportunity to find out these things about him if you took a reasonable courting time. But hey, never mind. I digress. We're there.
From one of the priests back at home, and our priest said to him, like, has she divorced you yet? And I want to be clear, not for a single second throughout that entire pilgrimage did I see an attorney's office, or I would have been in there. But we were in the countryside, so we were stuck with one another. And as we got to the last 4 miles, all uphill, I remember looking at Father Witos, and he's just got a cheery Australian smile on his face. And I'm like, honey, we just have to keep going, because if I stop, I'm physically just going to fall apart. And I said, I'm going to be honest with you, Father, I feel like I'm going to die. And it was just the biggest smile on his face. Father Witos said to me, do you know somebody died last year on that hill?
Wow, they are laughing like this was really funny.
Not a joke.
We saw
the
comedy
cross.
hour. It's
Great
like we're
day.
at a comedy store. Yeah, you're at a stand-up right now.
Well, she's standing up. But not for Christ, though. Like, what in the world's going on?
If somebody died, she's like, I couldn't believe this. At this point, I'm going, should I just be Protestant? Like, is this like, is what the Catholics do, you know? But I made it. And I'm telling you, when you see camp in the distance and you start to see everybody flooding in and oh my gosh, your mindset, you're going, I never thought I could do this. I pushed myself mentally. I pushed myself physically. We did this. And then, I remember getting into bed that night and just like the very last thought that came in my brain was, you have to do this all again tomorrow. And that really has been my thought process, just realizing as I jump into this next thing, realizing my life was great, Now I've realized this, and it's the truth, the capital T truth. And the capital T truth is that it was never about an attack on Trump or free markets or Marxism or race, What's always been going on is that it has been an attack on Christ. It truly has been.
Christ has entered the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Christ has entered the chat. Oh man, I wasn't ready. I was not prepared.
Right.
Okay, so now I'm sure she's going to explain how Christ contradicts all of these isms and stuff like that, and how Catholicism actually is the right vantage point for this. I cannot wait. Cannot wait.
Very simply, how was this an attack on Christ? How?
Yeah, I would. I gotta give her air. We gotta give the King of Kings and Lord of Lords an air horn. Come on now. He's up in here. We done got him. All right, let's see what happens.
And it is so tempting not to dive into that. It's so tempting to say, life is great. These are just the one thing you just don't have to talk about. And you can keep everything, your career. You can keep, the same set of political friends. You just don't veer too much into speaking about Jesus Christ. Don't recognize that big truth, the comfort of being able to stay there. Your life's great. Husband, you are happy. The kids are happy. Just don't start speaking about Jesus Christ. And it's so tempting to have kept things the way that they were. But the more that I thought about it, and the more that I saw it, and the more that I studied history, I knew that for me, there could be no other option. And I knew that it was going to cost me pain. I knew that for everything that I had done in my career, in a way, God was saying to me, that was only the first day. I'm going to have to do it all over again. And I'm going to have to endure the media attacks, and I'm going to have to endure the smears and the libels and the 3,500 emails that they received trying to stop me from speaking at this event. 3,500 troll emails trying to terrorize people from hosting me at this event. And when I learned that was happening, I chuckled. I said, oof, they don't know Catholics.
I gotta stop for a second, because she's going to now. She's making herself a victim. She's identifying herself as a victim. We've talked about that before, and she's made herself the quintessential avatar for victimhood and such like that, and those who stand up for it. Am I to believe that, and this was last year, so all of this pushback that you're getting is because you're quote unquote a Christian? No, it's because you're mad reckless. Like, I wanted to come back and be like, the reason they're attacking me, maybe TPUSA doesn't like her because she's a Catholic. Maybe that's what is going to come out to be. I don't know. But what were you about to say?
I mean, she talks about being attacked for talking about Jesus Christ, but she couldn't even talk about Jesus Christ throughout this entire testimony for what, an hour now?
In front of Catholics.
In front of Catholics.
Right. Goodness gracious. All right, here we go.
And so I don't know where this is going, but I rely on just the feeling that I felt on that third day. Once the last day is 16 miles, and I cannot explain to you what overcomes you when you see those spires in the distance. And you're all listening to the priest tell the story of the Charter Cathedral, how another one of these accidents during World War II, bad intel, they were told, the Americans, to shell it, shell it, bring it down, because there's Nazis inside. And gratefully, there was a Christian American, a general, who just said, I just don't know why I feel like that's bad intel. And he volunteered himself to go across enemy lines, to walk into the cathedral, and to ring the bell if there were no Nazis. And they went over, and they saw that there was no Nazis inside, and so that cathedral still stands today. Because, it's an incredible story.
Okay.
And I'll never forget the feeling when you can feel nothing. I mean, by that third day, your hair hurts. Have you ever sprained your hair? Your hair hurts.
Wait, can you pause?
And then suddenly...
Yeah, absolutely.
I find that it's interesting that she's acknowledging, because now everybody knows her theology is it's so mixed up because she's visibly anti-Semitic now, and that's her whole shtick. That's her entire personality, and I find it interesting that she's able to acknowledge Nazis and that Catholics were expelling the idea of Nazis, and that they were ringing the bell to acknowledge that there were no more Nazis. But it's like. Mm-hmm. Now it's ironic because her entire theology is completely flipped over. So it's like, what part of that, and part of this whole idea that Nazis and there's a whole fringe idea online that Hitler was not so bad, and it's like
Candace is of that crowd.
Yes,
Candace is of that crowd. So yeah,
yes.
So. Yeah, she's an apologist.
Isn't it ironic that, but because the Catholics acknowledge that there were no more Nazis, whatever she identifies or defines that as, because she's apologizing for that side, but at the same time, it's like Catholics are acknowledging that they were the bad guys. Does that is that completely screwed up? But isn't that ironic?
It is. And I think it goes back to what we said earlier. She's not moored to anything. She's not tied down to any philosophy. So literally, this is last year. Now she's literally apologizing for the failed art student of Germany. That's got to be, come on now. Everybody's got to at least say that's peculiar. She literally, just last year, she was saying that the Yahtzees were bad people. Now she's apologizing, and the failed art student was just misunderstood. That's crazy work.
To put it. And I'm sorry if I said his name and I wasn't supposed to.
Oh no, that's okay. No, I like saying failed art student though. I like saying that. Let's keep this dance going.
You realize why the Latin Mass, when all of the French citizens in this tiny little town come out and they're holding their babies and they've got their family and they join you in prayer, in the Latin prayer. And you can't help but to be overcome by emotion.
French.
You can't help but to understand why it is that it is supposed to be one holy apostolic church.
I would love to have Candace tell me, what does that mean? That phrase that you just said, one holy apostolic church. What does that mean on her own? Not with any assistance, not calling a lifeline. What does that actually mean, Candace?
Right.
Because I'm going to go on a limb and say she doesn't know.
And it's
Go ahead.
it's just a dog whistle, it seems, because, this is like Catholics talking to Catholics.
Yeah, for sure.
A Catholic with the audience of Catholics. So is this like another insider term that I don't know about? Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's a part of the Apostles' Creed. And now, let's just be honest. The word Catholic just meant universal church.
Uh-huh.
And universal church, and the word Catholic means those persons, when I as a Protestant, when we recite the Apostles' Creed, I as a Protestant, we're saying that those persons who were the first person who died as a Christian all the way to the last person who dies before Christ returns, they are all a part of the body of Christ, or the Church Catholic. Catholics have taken it as if their institution is the only form of that. And that's not what we're referring to. Does that make sense?
That's it. Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, and we can get into a 2-day argument about that. I'm not going to do that tonight because I see some people want to argue about that. That's fine. DearWokeC@gmail.com. Let me know. We can have that. We can cue that up. But that's what we mean by, that's what the Apostles' Creed meant by one true apostolic church. I don't know what Candace means by that, but I guarantee you she probably doesn't know either.
Right.
It has been that, just knowing that finally I've landed on the only fight that actually matters. Everything else is auxiliary, everything else is subsidiary. And I know that feeling that I felt is, I don't know when it will come, and we're going to get through this trying time. And I think I realized truly that I had become a Catholic when I went through all of this persecution, and I was so happy. I was Father Witos. I was like, yeah. And my husband's like, you got 20,000 articles being written about us all around the world. I think somebody died on the side of the road. I mean, I'm just smiling, going, yeah, this is amazing. Because to be persecuted, man, that is the story of Christianity. And I am so blessed, and I want to say to you all that I am so grateful, because I emerge here.
Okay, I know. I see your face. You want to.
Well, I know where she's going, because she's going to talk about Christ is King, the dog whistle, the phrase that she has coined, that many of the woke right have also coined, and it's like, you're persecuted for what, though?
There we go. That's the part. Like,
yeah, are you claiming to be persecuted because you're Catholic? Because you have your newfound faith and you're professing it in public? Like, what are you being persecuted about?
Candace, you know what Candace is like? She's like the kid that comes home from school and they have a bad report from their teacher. And it's just like, well, Miss Bumblebee made me sit in the corner at lunch. Oh, okay, well, like, what's the background? Well, it was after I punched Bobby in the throat and then slapped little Sally. Yeah, but Miss Bumblebee made me go sit in the corner. Well, baby,
Right.
you assaulted somebody. What are you talking about? Like, She
Right.
doesn't tell you the whole story. It's crazy work. She just gives you enough to say, yeah, we're persecuted. Yeah, it's sad that they put you in the corner at lunch.
Right.
But what did you do to justify? Now, watch this. What did you do to get yourself into that situation? She'll never tell you that. And I'm sorry, I don't think you're persecuted because you're Catholic. I just don't think that's it.
Are so humble, just the humility of understanding that the Catholics around the world have lifted me up in prayer. The Catholics around the world were praying for me before I even was a Catholic, and they found out my husband was one. They said they set their timers. They knew that it was only a matter of time. And I am so grateful to each and every.
Okay, I'm going to say something really foul. I think those same people, there's another religious group around the world that's probably sent their timers because they know it's just a matter of time. Candace, like, you don't speak from a place of conviction whatsoever, because she hasn't told us what actually transpired to cause her to have all this peace. Just marching in a mud storm, in a rainstorm is what brought you. I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense. And yeah, it's just a matter of time. I'm just a matter of time.
Right.
Every one of you for lifting me and my family up in prayers. We are at the beginning of day 2, but I promise you that in the end, we win.
So,
Okay, so that was the end of her intro. I'm sorry, her conversion story. And now we get to the questions. So this is the questions from the second day. I thought they were very helpful, so that's why I brought them in. So don't mind the fact that her costume changed, because this is another day. All right.
Right.
Yeah, I have no idea what they're winning. They're winning something. I don't know what they're winning. All right, let's keep this rolling. Let's go. Because there was a question specifically that you wanted. So let me know, Natalie, and I'll stop preparing accordingly.
Okay.
Candace. First question. Listening to your testimony, let me go back. You said I could ask anything. You said shortly before this speech that you never get nervous before talks, and yet you were nervous now. Why?
Because this, I think, it just matters more. And I think in many ways, it's just the humility of realizing how little I know, right? I mean, there is so much to learn. I'm so overwhelmed with how little I know. You know, I feel almost like my entire life, my public school life, has just been a lie, I guess is one way of saying it.
Again.
Look, I'm a former public school teacher. Why public schools got to keep catching strays? Y'all, public school has a lot of problems, but why we got to keep catching strays? They're not teaching you Catholicism.
They're not. And they're not tearing down Catholicism either. I went through public school. I don't remember coming out with an outcome of understanding that Catholics are evil. I just never, I never came out with that.
Yeah, I don't get why public school got to keep catching strays. Yo,
right.
Shout out to my public school people. Let's go.
And by the way, it's okay to not know everything as a Christian. If you're a baby Christian, it's okay. You're going to learn so much. You're going to continuously learn. Even as a seasoned Christian, you're going to learn something new. You're going to learn a new part of theology. It's okay. There's no shame in not knowing everything. But I think this is deceptive because Candace Owens, didn't even give a straight testimony of her faith. And it doesn't take, you don't have to be super articulate to retell your testimony of faith, how you found Jesus, how Jesus found you, how he chased you down, and how his scripture is engraved in your heart from reading it and why it impacted you so much. You don't have to be articulate to retell your testimony. But now it's like, she's nervous. It's deceptive because she's saying she's nervous because she doesn't know so much. And it's okay to not know so much. It's the basic, the basic retelling of your testimony and how Jesus has impacted your life.
But this is a works-based belief system. So you do have to, there's a lot that you have to know in order to do the works that you do. But in John chapter 9, the man that was blind, he just said, look, man, I was blind, but now I see. Like, he didn't have any other greater testimony than that. And when the Pharisees brought him back in to question him again, he said, man, do you want to be his disciples too? Because you keep asking me the same question. I was blind and now I see. That is it. Right. So the testimony, like literally, he said, look, my testimony is enough to make you a disciple. That's powerful. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And this right here is a works-based salvation that you got to do these things, marching up mountains and all this kind of stuff like that. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I do think it's odd that she leans on that, but let her go. Let her go, Jason.
Yeah.
And I'm overwhelmed by how much I have to learn. But I will also say the other side of that is I've never been more excited. I mean, we went to London for a month in April. And I didn't want to leave because every day I was doing an hour and a half at the Brompton Oratory with Father Julian or with Father Rupert. And it was just, it was like a personal renaissance. Like, it was just like I was learning information for the first time. And that's exciting. That's really exciting. So it's nerve-wracking also.
What information, right? From the scriptures? Yeah, what did you learn? It just seems like
your heart.
Yeah, I mean, when you read John chapter 3, what did it do to your life? When you were reading Daniel, how did it change you? When Proverbs and Ezekiel, what did they do to your heart when you, like, how did he take that heart of stone and turn it into a heart of flesh? I'd love to hear that story.
Right.
Oh, you don't have it. Okay. Just, you spend an hour and a half with these guys and speak
Right.
nothing of the scriptures.
Right.
I mean, Jesus got a hat tip, so we got to give, at least Christ got entered into the group text. Nobody talking to him, but hey, he's still in the group text. Yeah, he's in there. He got invited in.
Because I'm not a person who's converted and gets to learn and make mistakes without them being publicized, right? I'll say something, and if I get it wrong, they'd be like, heretic, right? Heretic. She's a heretic. And I'm like so conscious of that. And I don't want to get it wrong. And so I feel that pressure in many ways. I don't really want to.
I was blind, but now I see. There you go. I mean, that's 7 words. There you go. I think that fixed the problem right there. I was blind, but now I see. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't want to let Catholics get down, I guess is the best way to say it.
So in your testimony, it was interesting how it seemed like you almost came closer to the church because you saw all the attacks going against it. Why would something so bad be attacked so
Really
viciously?
Yeah.
I just want to catch this one comment from Heather Rose 2023 because this was in my notes. She says, I have never heard Candace say I was dead in my sin. And that was like one of my biggest grievances as I was watching this testimony. And I never once heard her talk about her sin and how she was dead in her sin, or how sin has caused her, grief or valleys in her life, and how Jesus came to rescue her and that he died for her sins. And I think that is one of the most important comments of the entire night. Just not mentioning sin. No,
shout out. And I agree. Like, and I've been saying this the whole night, but then Heather said it much, much more eloquently than I. There is no gospel in this thing. You could have given this at a TED Talk. Again, whoever called it a TED Talk, shout out. Like, there's nothing here that separates this from any TED Talk that you've ever seen. Right. Maybe, a couple thousand more people, but that's about it. And yes, there is no revelation of who she was pre-Christ, post-Christ. There's nothing. Right. There's nothing there.
And there's no shame in your testimony. There's no shame in the before Jesus days. Okay. I was in the clubs before Jesus. I was, you know what I mean?
Or maybe you weren't. Right. Or maybe you weren't. Maybe your life maybe you weren't. Maybe you're because of your family upbringing, you weren't really exposed to a lot of the shenanigans and hijinks. Or maybe you were deep in the shenanigans and hijinks. That's not the point. Whether you were in the shenanigans or not in the shenanigans, you were still dead in your trespasses and sins.
Correct.
So whether mine were more demonstrative and clear, yours are hidden under a rug, we're still in our dead in our trespasses and sins. That's it.
Right. That's it.
And that led to you taking a second look. Is that correct? You're gonna go deeper into that?
There were a lot of things happening at once. I think with me, it's always a lot of things that happen at once. I mean, just even marrying George, right? That's the first big thing. And his story and his testimony is fascinating. And I think for me, yes, it was recognizing, really could just start with one thing. You could pick anything, right? We could pick, I was talking about the Charter Cathedral being bombed. Okay, almost being bombed. That actually factually happened. We live in this society where we're constantly talking about mining past pain. Everyone's a victim, right? Women went through this until the 1920s, and Black people went through this and slavery, and everybody gets a trophy for their past pain. Now try talking about things the Catholics have lived through. It's not the same. And so it was sort of me recognizing that, and then seeing how whenever Catholics would try to speak out about anything historically, completely removed from politics, just this factually happened, the attacks were really quite strange. And then I just sort of got interested, as I was talking about, in some of my evangelical.
I should have zoomed in on this poor guy's face. He looks so confused. He really looks confused. I should have zoomed in on his face while she was talking, because I have no idea what she's talking about.
Right. Right.
None whatsoever. I have no idea.
Unfortunately, it's like he's got Candace Owens in front of him. So it's like
Yeah.
he can't. It's almost as if he can't
He can't
accentuate
go to
on
sleep.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Bless his heart.
Perspectives on certain political issues. So that was sort of unrelated. And I got interested in like the Schofield Bible. Like, why does their Bible say this and this Bible say that? And unfortunately, if you start getting interested, you kind of start realizing, okay, this has always been about dividing Christians. Dividing Christians from what, right? The one holy apostolic church. And what better playground to do that than in America, where we've already been trained to believe my truth, my truth, my truth, my perspective, and not the truth. And so for me, America was intentionally infiltrated as a playground for Protestantism.
I don't even understand. Why did people come to the United States? Why did Protestants come to the United States, I wonder? Oh, was it because Catholics were persecuting them in Europe? Oh, yeah, that's right. The whole pilgrims came here to worship freely because they were being attacked, murdered, and killed by Catholics. Like, quit playing.
Right.
Ma'am, stop playing. Stop it. Just stop. Because she didn't have to go there. She did not have to bring that into the mix.
Right.
She chose to bring that into the discussion. And now, ma'am, you did that.
It's always ironic that she's talking about divisive, being divisive, however people want to pronounce it. I always get caught on that. It's always funny and ironic that she's talking about being divided, a divided church, when she's doing a lot of the division. Again,
Facts.
it's always the gang Catholics, and Protestantism is like beneath. It's almost like she puts it in that context, and it's not. We're not the one. We don't hate Catholic. Like, me as a Protestant, I've never said, "Well, Catholic, like I hate them," or they're evil. There might be some things that I disagree with them, and I don't. My doctrine doesn't agree with their doctrine, but I'm never going to say that I hate them or that they're evil. Not once.
But notice she uses leftist language, because any disagreement to a leftist is hating them. Again, so that's why I say I don't think Candace was ever not a leftist.
Yeah.
Because again, like, I can disagree with you, and I don't have to say, and if I disagree with Natalie, I don't think Natalie would say, Jason hates me, Jason attacked me, Jason, just because I disagreed with you. But on the contrary, she translates everything as disagreement, every disagreement as attack, as vitriol, as hatred, probably because this is who she is. She's always been this person.
Good point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you saw that, and that just, you knew it's like, okay, it made you take a deeper look into it, and it combined with your study of history, put that together and arrived to that. Hardest hurdle for you?
That's a great question. What has been the hardest hurdle? It's such a weird thing, because you could say 1,000 things that are public about that, but I've just been so grateful. It's weird. It's totally weird. I'm at this very aggressive time in my life. Things are insane. It's like a mainstream global news story when I leave my job, getting attacked from former colleagues and things that are being said that are not untrue. And you would say, yeah, most people would say, yeah, that's been really hard, but it hasn't. I look over my husband the whole time. I'm just like, this is going to.
You know what? I'm putting myself in 0-second timeout, because I should have zoomed in on this man's face. He looks like, what the actual devil are you talking about?
Yeah,
what are you talking about? He said, what is the most difficult thing for you? It's clear that he's talking about converting to Catholicism, learning Latin, going to mass, whatever it is. It's clear that's what he's talking about. I have no idea. She's like the kid that has to do the 5-minute report, but didn't do it. And so they just get up there and start filibustering. Like, what are you talking about, Candace?
Right.
Let her go.
And
Jason,
again, this is devoid of your testimony, because when we can talk about our lowest points, those are the pivotal points in our testimony, I would think. and again, it's just a missed opportunity to spread the gospel and to springboard on Jesus and point people to Jesus. This was the lowest valley of my life. There was no way I couldn't see myself out of this or that multiple times.
Yeah.
Multiple times. I could not see myself out of this situation. In my natural way of thinking, I never thought that I would get out of this or that hole, right? And it's like, but Jesus. It's always pointing to Jesus. But here it's like, it's always pointing to the classroom politics. It's pointing to public school, this and that people, it's like, that's not a that's not a Christian valley that we're
No.
looking for in a
No.
testimony.
Okay, let's see. Let's get this dance going.
Going to be amazing. This is going to be amazing. This is actually going to be amazing because what we're doing now actually matters. So I really do think that the harder things are the little things. And it was just accepting that I knew nothing. When I mean I've gone back to being basic.
What'd you say?
That's the valley that she's talking about. Like the most
right.
hardest hurdle was that I don't know anything.
Not that I realized I was a sinner in the hands of an angry God. Like, no, I just don't know anything. I mean, a second grader could say this. A second grader can say this now that they're out of kindergarten. You know what? I didn't know anything in kindergarten. I didn't know anything. That was my hardest hurdle.
Basically a middle schooler. There's this wonderful pamphlet that my husband gave me. I guess they used to print it in the 1950s. It's a comic book for Catholics about the Latin Mass. I think it's literally for 11-year-olds. It's amazing. It's great. I'm like, we got to get this reprinted. Who makes it? Where did you get it from, sweetie?
Know the Mass.
Know the Mass. It's wonderful. It's from the 1950s. Yeah, so that's where I'm starting, right? So I'm sitting in the car outside of Mass, and and my husband hands me this book for an 11-year-old, and I'm like, this is amazing. I love this. So I have it in my backpack. I revisit it, and it's a wonderful place to start. But that hasn't been too much of a challenge because there have been people there to guide me, and people are really understanding, and so it's been wonderful.
So.
And what did it contain?
Right. What did it contain? What was the book? And this is what I'm saying. Like, Candace Owens is a multimillionaire. If she wanted to, she could get the rights to that comic book. It's probably out of print. The comic book the publisher is probably out of business. You can probably get that comic book and reprint it yourself and post it and make it available. And maybe instead of doing your book club on books about MK Ultra and underground B communes, maybe you could go through this. I mean, if it mattered that much, like, why are you not bringing up, again, if Catholicism is so valid, why are you not talking about it in a way to help people understand it more robustly, even as you're learning? Like, what was the comic book about? I got a whole stack of comics right here. I'm team comic book. I like them. But like, then what's the purpose of them? Never mind. Never mind. Let's just let it go, Jason.
Okay, that's how you arrived. You're reading, you're studying. Now, Eucharist, how did you approach that? What was that like? Someone asked me from the crowd, ask her what it was like the first time to receive
First Communion.
Yeah.
I had, and I don't want to veer towards anything heretical, but I will say that getting baptized as an adult was the most amazing, beautiful. I remember looking at the end of this in this traditional Latin baptism, and it was so special. Genuinely, it will register as one of the most beautiful days of my life. It was incredible. And at the end of it, I remember saying, I just wish everyone could experience it this way. Of course, I understand, like, babies, you get them baptized, my children baptized, but I think it's just so different when you're an adult and your senses are so alive and you really understand what this meaning is. And it's not, happening because, my mom's a Catholic or my dad's a Catholic. And it's just something that I would absolutely never forget. And I did First Communion right away. And it really was just a glorious day. It could not have been more perfect. It was just me, my husband, and Father Rupert and Father Julian. And it was after, these weeks of study and asking questions like I was a child and playing, the advocate with the father and being like, well, what about this? What, just kind of trying to fish out and just really seeing the beauty and being able to approach, because I still feel like I'm approaching it, the fullness of faith, and realizing, gosh, what was I doing before? Why was I doing it? Revisiting, where did I learn these things about Catholics? When was I brainwashed against Catholics? That's what's happening. I mean, I think that that's something that Catholics need to be aware of. You're up against the public school system. The public school system loves Protestantism.
Oh, Lord, public
My
school
goodness.
catching strays again. Oh, man, y'all public school people, man. Y'all, look, I'm a former public school teacher, okay? My kids go to public school. Look, man, shout out to the public schools. I'm going to give y'all a shout out still. Y'all, don't let her discourage you. But I was listening to this and I realized something that she does. She uses very flowery language. It was a beautiful experience that warmed my inner heart to the point of just amazing. I was in reverence and awe of how beautiful and majestic this opportunity was for me. I just wish everybody else could also experience the beauty and majesticness of whatever the heck I'm talking about.
Moment. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's just using flowery language. If you take the flowery language out, this don't make no doggone sense. What are you talking about?
Right.
And again, I'm going to ask editor Jason to come back and go back in and zoom in on this poor guy's face, because he looks like, what are you talking about? His face is not playing along with her storytelling. But again, some reason or another, why, I don't know why, public school is catching strays.
Yeah, I mean, and if you remember your own baptism, I was Baptist. I was baptized twice. Once, I felt like I was pressured into doing it, and so I don't really count that as my baptism. My second baptism was actually in the Jordan River, and so I remember that. I remember that baptism. I remember, pivotal in my faith, how I really truly understood what it was to follow Christ at that point. It wasn't just reiterating words. It wasn't just saying I understood. It was, I truly accepted Christ into my heart. I read scripture and I can interpret scripture now with the Spirit, and I follow him, and I'm dead in my sin. And I'm not a perfect Christian. I'm not a perfect person, but I want to pursue faith, and I want to pursue scripture, and I want to pursue these principles. That's what it is to die in your sin, and to recognize that you're going to fail every single day, but Christ is there to fulfill the covenant. He's there to die for your sin. He died for your sins. I'm sorry.
Right, I got you.
That's a baptism. That is a baptism. It's not, it registered as the most beautiful day. It's not, I wore this dress and I felt the water. It's like, it's deeper meaning than that. And it's like, it's incredible to me that people don't catch this, and they're not like, well, that's not necessary. Like, the physical part of your baptism is not what a baptism is. What part of your testimony, again, it's your testimony that is attached to the baptism. What is that?
I love that. I love it. And let me also just add, she talks about her going through these studies. And to me, that's where all of that stuff would have been ironed out. Your testimony is getting ironed out with whoever the person is, where you're having this discussion. You're talking about these deep theological issues and such like that, ironing it out and say, okay, I know what he did for me. I know that I was dead in my trespasses and sins, but now I was made alive in Christ. You can say that now, but she doesn't. And I do think it's funny, and it almost slipped past me, but shout out to, I just had it up on the screen. He did ask her about the Eucharist, not her baptism. That's different. Am I right?
Oh, good catch.
Yeah, so again, she's not answering these questions. And I think that's probably why the guy's looking so frustrated, because he knows he's asking a specific question and she's answering whatever comes to her mind.
Right.
So shout out to him for sure. Okay, let's dance. Let's get done with this.
The public school system loves the division of the church. So this, I'm answering your question in a lot of ways, but
no, you're not answering at all.
It was a wonderful experience. It was beautiful. And it was something that I will just never forget as long as I live.
So absolutely.
Okay.
It's almost like receiving the Eucharist. It's like profound yet so simple. And that's what's so unique. You just, the priest will tell us that you just sit in front of the presence of our Lord. You may not feel anything, but it just kind of, it gradually over time, it's like there's somebody there. You feel the warmth of his heart. And I look at him, he looks at me, the famous story from John Vianney, right? The church in 2024. It's very interesting what's going on. You're a warrior. You like saying things just the way they are. And that often doesn't always happen in the church. And sometimes there's even the reverse of confusing positions. What's going on in the church today, have any
Up at all, for sure.
Yeah.
This poor man, he looks like he's bracing himself for a word
Right.
salad explosion. He's like, Lord, I got to ask this question. I don't want, I'm sitting back with my arm up here like, oh gosh. He
Right.
looks like it's about to be painful.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I was sitting across from Father Julian. I'm like, tell me one reason I shouldn't be Russian Orthodox, It's like saying whatever in this room, right? And I presented that to him. I was like, well, they would say that this Pope is an example, of all of the arguments regarding the schism, which I don't know why, but the British priests say schism. So it make me feel uneducated when I say schism. Schism, the great schism. And he had an answer for that, he said, actually, this is what really shows you the strength of the church. The strength of it actually is that even when you are going through tests, and he has the perspective, and I also hold that perspective too, that there is a reverence there. We need to approach those issues like family members, and so I'm not into the theater of like, this Pope this or this Pope that. I think it's a trying time, but I think that the church withstands the test of time. That's the point, right?
Absolutely. Blessed Mother, Mary.
I have no idea what she just said. I mean, she is definitely giving us Kamala Harris. For sure.
Decorated in literary flowers for every single response. And it's like she dances around answering the question directly. She dances around and she just utilizes adjectives and just
abusing adjectives.
Yeah, and she answers in genericisms. Again, genericized. That's the word tonight. She's very
please
generic
put
about
genericized
everything.
in the chat. I do not let me forget genericized. I might add that to bingo and it might not even be there. Genericized. Matter of fact, I'm doing it right now. I'm opening up the document for our bingo game on tomorrow, and I'm adding genericized to it because we must, in honor of Natalie, we must add genericized to the bingo board. It's going in there right now. But no,
She never answers any questions. It's just very high level and very, very descriptive, but it's not necessarily answering anything that he's asking her.
All right, let's find out what happened with Mary. Let's see where he lands with Mary. Let's go.
How's that going?
Of course, that's the first instant hang up for a Protestant, right? It's like we all say the exact same things. The Pope, Mary, why are you worshiping Mary? Why this is completely crazy to be worshiping Mary. And then, that was actually something that I got around quite easily. I read the first book that I read, and I think that was about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. George gave me Bishop Barron's. Actually, no, the first book I read was Scott Hahn. Yes. But I say to Protestant, I read it and I was like, okay, like, I don't know. He has a lot of books. This one, he was like, it was actually, maybe it was his wife. The book was actually more about his wife coming to faith, and it wasn't substantive enough, I think.
Okay, I gotta stop. So you read, I am pro reading authors and such of that nature. No problem, no issue with that at all. Mm-hmm. But an issue like this, the very first thing you bring up is reading other books, not the actual biblical text. Because please understand, though Christ has been named in this TED Talk, I don't think the Bible has been cracked nor opened in this TED Talk whatsoever. So, Like, why not say, hey, well, like why do Protestants have a hang up about Mary? There you go.
Right.
She says it as if we're just some big dummy heads. All those big those guys. Oh, y'all don't understand. Yeah. Oh, I understand so much deeply. Well, please tell me how you understand it more deeply.
Again,
No,
the
please,
gang.
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get this dance.
It was a quick read. I don't think it was like, if that's your first entry, it wasn't a compelling enough reason for me. And I was like, okay, like, but George was kind of like putting books and like, oh, read this one. And I was like, I'm going to read this book. Here's another book. And I said to him, yeah, it was fine. And then I read Bishop Barron's Journey to the Heart of the Faith, and that was different. And honestly, I was seized in the first 15 pages where he started talking about, and this again kind of has the symmetry with politics, where he was talking about the root of the word, like diavolo, right? Like the devil wants to divide, and he was getting into what that actually means. Like division is an evil. Right. And I know that from politics, right? I know that it's all about dividing the family, dividing the sexes. It's this constant game of division. And when something is not whole, it is not true. And so that kind of instantly made me go, okay. And it was just really beautiful. It was the book itself and the way that he was writing about it was very impassioned. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I very, very easily got around the Mary thing because it's just a lie. I mean, people are telling you that Catholics are worshiping Mary as God, and that's just actually a lie that has been repeated so often that people just believe it to be true. They don't understand the veneration of her or what is the reasons behind the veneration. She
does know that veneration means elevate to the level of God, right? Never mind. I think this is adorable. Again, every time she answers something, when she answers it, it's answered in a combative sense. Like She's against Natalie. So my answer is me talking about how terrible Natalie is.
Right.
Rather than me explaining and giving my answer is, Natalie says this, and, Natalie's just all wrong and she can't be right. She's got to be wrong. She probably can't even read. She probably didn't own a Bible, right? Ha ha ha. Rather than actually answering the question.
Right. She's defensive rather than educational.
There we go. She's defensive. That's it. Yes. Yeah. A Gnostic clown is crazy work. Okay, let's keep this going.
Of Mary, and so that wasn't a difficult hang up for me.
Favorite saint? Have you got?
Okay, here's your question. Is this your question, Nat?
Yep, this is it.
Okay.
This is it.
What did you want?
Oh, let me go ahead and load it up. Yeah. So he's about to ask. He just asked her, "What's your favorite saint?" So my particular question out there for people who are actually Catholic or have knowledge of Catholicism is, now Candace has a theme. She has a theme in the way that she's been answering questions, and I don't think that we are going to be without that theme when she answers this question about the saint. I think that many Catholics are going to recognize that she's a baby Catholic. I don't know if people of the Catholic faith view this question and are bypassing her answer as in she's just a baby Catholic and she doesn't quite know. I don't know if the answer should be more loaded, like there's more testimony to your favorite saint. If there is more knowledge tied to answering that question. I'm asking because I am generally curious. I am curious about the Catholic perspective about the saints. Like how loaded are these answers? I guess is the better way to put this.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if that's
feel free to
articulated well.
No, it made sense, and feel free to answer her if you have knowledge or if you are Catholic. Okay, let's see what she says.
Have you had a saint that's really drawn your heart?
Promise. Did George put you up to this question? So it's so weird because Saint Joan. Yeah. There's been this just weird thing about the things in my life that weirdly happen in threes. And, Father Julian was like, you start thinking about
numerology,
what saint, like, well, what name, what your confirmation name is going to be. And we started talking about saints and all of this stuff. And I was like, gosh, there's so many saints. How do you just like pick a saint? And then obviously our first Catholic experience was in Chartres. So we were in France. And then the first Catholic event I got invited to was St. Joan, and somebody had written to me and said something about St. Joan. And I was like, hey, this name just keeps coming up. And then I looked online, and strangely enough, the day that she marched, right, it was my birthday. It was April 29th. And I just thought, this is so strange. And I just thought, this is just, everything is pointing to Joan. So it just, France, Joan. Right now, Joan.
Okay, that's insane. You all got to hear the backstory.
It was very strange. The whole thing was very strange.
George, you didn't tip me off about this?
Actually, I learned on the pilgrimage, Catholics, we do not believe in coincidences. We believe in providence.
Absolutely.
All right. Do you want to?
I mean,
gotta,
again, she answers without answering. And his question was very simple. What's your favorite saint? And I think it was along the lines of why? Why is that your favorite saint? And it's like, correct, she went through this obstacle course of explaining that she likes something she always experiences things in threes, and how it ended up to the generic answer of, Joan, St. Joan. That's what. I don't know if, again, that's why I'm curious from people who have a Catholic perspective or Catholic knowledge. Is that something that you would answer with great detail? If you have a favorite saint, is that something that you would answer further from being generic, like, that's just my favorite saint? Is there a historical sense you would include with your answer? Is there, I don't know. I don't know. I'm asking because I'm genuinely curious.
I don't think, and I don't know, and if an answer pops up, I'll bring it up on the screen. To me, the question is the wrong question to ask. And for me, I would want to know, like, okay, now since becoming a Catholic, what is your position on the scriptures, or I want to know about something that people can transfer and take with them. Right. Like, oh, I really like the Book of Ruth. Like, my daughter cracks me up that she really likes the Book of Ruth, and we'll read it multiple times over again. She really enjoys it. I got no problem with that. Okay, fine. And if you ever ask her, favorite book is Ruth. Okay. Right. And another one like Song of Solomon. It's okay. All right. Okay. It is what it is. It's in the script. So, I mean, that's what God is for. There you go. Okay, fine. I don't know when is the Bible going to enter the chat at all in this discussion? Right. Because we still haven't heard anything. We got a passing nod to Jesus. I got you. However, even in that passing nod, most of this is extra biblical conversation anyway. And not something from the scriptures that actually somebody can take away. And I got your experience, but how does your experience informed by scripture? Right. I would love that, but I don't think it's going to happen because we only got like 2 minutes left.
So the backstory of the audience, you're kind of getting ahead of herself in the flow of the evening. But when we're choosing the day to have this event, I don't know if you know this, Candace, we're looking at the calendar. I got the Bernadette's liturgical calendar. Great, what's coming up? Candace, we want to have her here. I was in touch with your team and looking at dates. Well, son of a gun. May 30th, why not? Feast of Joan of Arc. Okay, great. Where do we have it at? Oh, I know, Joan of Arc Parish. Okay, that's surreal. Yeah. And then you hear that. It
was providential.
Providential?
Yeah, it really was providential. It's such a strange set of circumstances.
But it's true to St. Joan, though, we know her life, okay? And this is so symbolic of like Catholics, the way it works. We don't really choose saints, they choose you, okay? Same thing happened with the Jones.
Okay, y'all got to stop playing with me. We got to stop playing over here. How are saints choosing you? See? Right. But that's why, that makes sense then why she believes that Charlie could come to her in a dream and speak to her.
Right. Right. And I said that there was a video that I made on
Yes,
my
gentlemen.
channel called
Come on.
Candace and the Occult. And, I did say that I said that there's a charitable portion of me that is going to just give it up to her in her Catholic, I guess, the frame of thought, the way that she
Mhm.
thinks that maybe this is why she believes that this is okay, that he's visiting her in a dream. I don't know. But it's like I'm just gonna season in some commentary here. Like if you're a Catholic watching this, like it's just so much simpler if you just have Jesus himself, intercede for you.
Yeah. He
That's it.
ever, that's it. That's it. I mean, I'm not trying to make it super simple, but the Lord made it super simple.
He did.
He ever lives to make intercession
Yeah.
on our behalf.
it.
Like that's it. I don't I don't need another mediator. I know you're
It
gonna
just
come on.
it feels like a lot of obstacle courses to have to like remember all the saints and have all these prayers and have this ritualistic way
Hmm.
of abiding your faith and adhering your faith to a system. And it's like Jesus literally is the liberator. He is the one. That's it. All you need is Jesus. I just, and I say this without any hate in my heart or any condemnation. Like I just say this as a friend to you. Like all you need is Jesus. It's
Yeah.
just simple.
It really is. And I mean, you're always going to be ever learning, so you're never going to know everything. I mean,
Right.
Jesus is simple enough that a child can understand it and deep enough that a theologian can drown in him. But
Yeah.
it's simple. But we're going to finish this up because I'm going to get to these supers.
It was first St. Michael, and then it was St. Michael appears to her and says, hey, by the way, you're going to have two girl saints appear to you, St. Catherine and St. Margaret. So they came to her. Maybe St. John's your girl, but it's in any case, from a human point of view, we see so much of her example in you, and we're going to get that in a second. But okay, so that's your favorite saint. My mom's sitting in the front row, so she asked me to ask you this question. She's like, ask Candace if she were to ride in the battle like St. John. St. John had a flag
Oh my gosh.
with the wording on it. What would be your mantra, your word, your battle cry?
Wow, Mom, you asked that question? What's going on?
You don't know the answer.
Right.
Gosh, I don't know. That's a great question. I know. I think it has to be, right?
Christ is King.
It absolutely has to be Christ is King. Because then I don't even have to fight. They're just going to, So weird. Yeah, that one's great because the demons they just perish instantly. They cannot handle that. So
That's it. Christ is King, Christus is Rex. All right, final question. What can we do to support you? We want to. That's what we're here for. What do you need from us?
I genuinely say this to people.
Did you want to add anything about the riding in the battle on the flag?
No, I mean it's just ironic that Christ is King is the phrase that she coins, and this is the biggest deception to Christians out there to make people think that this is all, this has Christ painted over everything that she does. And it's like, if you know the scriptures, if you know the Spirit of Christ, a lot of what we see on social media and this I believe that we're viewing one of the biggest deceptions.
Yes.
And it is the anti-Semitism. It is hating this group of God's chosen people. Like it is exactly that. It is that. And it is being flipped upside down. And it is aligning with scripture as exactly how we read it. Calling evil good and good evil. Like that is exactly what it is. And I just think like that this is so ironic that this is the phrase that she's coining in order to do that. And this is what she's coining as what, I don't know, the saint would ride into battle with. And it's like,
yeah.
she couldn't even think of that on her own. She needed the crowd contributions of them yelling out Christ is King for her to even coin that. It's like it's even something as simple as that she can't even come up with on her own.
No. And I think you're right on the money. And again, why not Like, so Christ is king is some kind of talisman, some kind of mantra that causes demons to do all this shenanigans that you're talking about. Really? Then just think about that, man. Like that sounds like you're casting a spell. Like
Right.
we don't do that. I mean, y'all might, but
Right.
we don't do that. So
Right.
like this doesn't make any sense. All right, we're done.
And the prayers are keeping me safe, and keep my family in your prayers. I just know that I wouldn't be here in this circumstance if it wasn't for the prayers. And, you know, I didn't have the ability to speak out a lot when the whole Crisis King thing was going. I really don't have the ability to speak out much now, but to look online and to see, like, I mean, Andrew did that video attacking me, and the full weight of the church came upon him. And like it was, and to look at that, I mean, I had tears in my eyes just being, I couldn't say anything. And I mean, we were getting texts from Austria, Germany. They're like, I don't know what's going on in America, but Christ is king. I mean, people were just, I mean, it trended for 4 days. It trended and people were outraged. And I was so proud. And I say this truly, that's another thing that has been so compelling, that when it comes down to moments like that,
Victimhood.
you do see that it is the Catholics that do not give 1 inch. And then I will say the Orthodox as well, but they do not give 1 inch when it comes to the faith. And then you get to some different divisions of Protestantism. They're like, well, if it upsets somebody, maybe we shouldn't say Christ is king. And I'm thinking to myself, what? Okay, so we shouldn't say like only women can give birth because it upsets somebody's feelings and this person doesn't want you to say it. I mean, if you do not stand on truth, you don't stand on anything. You stand on nothing. And
I got a feeling that phrase is going to come back to haunt her.
so I just want people to know that I saw the defenses of me. I saw the videos, I saw the tweets. And if you knew how much it got me through such a time of transition, so to speak, I just am so and will forever be indebted and grateful to you guys.
Again, making it about her.
So this is the blessing
Yeah.
of people under the
I
title
think I
of
cut
Our
this off.
Lady, Help of Christians. So all of us.
Yeah, I cut that off.
Yeah.
Woo! We made it, y'all.
Boy.
We made it. That
I
was
need an
painful.
adult beverage after that.
I mean, really great day. So one of the things that really stood out to me is just the lack of any kind of tangible biblical reference that you can take away. And one of the things that drew me to the church that I attend now is the fact that my pastor preaches line upon line right through a book of text. So it might take 2.5 years to get through the book of Luke. Okay. I think it took almost 3.5 or 4 to get through the book of Matthew. I mean, that's just going to be what it is. They're not going to blink. They're going to just keep going right along through it. There might be some vacations. There might be some holidays, but they're going to just preach right on through it. And the thing that I really liked about it is you always knew where he got the text from. You're like, oh, what was he preaching on? Well, it was in 1 Thessalonians 5, 1 through 3. Then it probably means this week is going to be 4 through 6 or 4 through 7, whatever. You can follow right along with it. And the thing that took from me here is that there's no reference to the scripture, nothing that you can take away from this and be edified by yourself. Like, let me read. Oh man, she was talking about how she really got through this time by reading through the book of John. Let me read through the book of John too. Or man, she said that, the Psalm 23 really is encouraging for her. And man, let me read through that. I need that again. Nothing. Everything is just Candace. It's just Candace.
Right.
And I like this right here. It's spiritually hollow. Right here. Shout out. That is spiritually hollow.
That's perfect.
It's missing
Perfect.
anything that you can run with and you can take and learn from on your own and study on your own. It's just not there.
Right. And let me just add what we haven't said. There's no humility whatsoever in any of this. No humility at all. I want to just like I want to give you guys a comparison. Like one of my favorite testimonies, one of my favorite people to give his testimony on how he came to Jesus is Brian Head Welch from Korn. This guy has like the dreadlocks and he's got tattoos everywhere, and he's one of the new metal, like one of the new metal rockers, like of the age, and he has the most humility when he's talking about his path to Christ and how he was a drug addict and he was standing over the toilet with all his drugs and he just flushed it down the, it's like that's what we're looking for. We're looking for
Right.
the bottom of the barrel. What drove you to Christ, and what was that moment where he chased you down and he invaded your heart? That's what we're looking for. That's what's going to influence people and point them to Christ. It's not talking about yourself and politics. It's not, that doesn't have Jesus all over it.
And I think also, and I agree with you 1,000%. I do think that more people than not did in fact see that Christ is King thing as being more of a derogatory. Again, it doesn't sit well with me the way she says it. It is problematic to me, especially not with any humility or any real testimony of Christ doing anything in your heart. It does come across like it's like you're. I said it before, like you cussing at somebody. I can see why people push back on it. So, and notice when she said it, she immediately became a victim. She jumped into victimhood when she even said that. Like even in that, she immediately jumped into victimhood in order to talk about it. And yeah, it's her little catchphrase. And you know what? You go ahead and do your thing, Candace. You on your own on that one, my girl.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
But let me shout these out real quick because they've been throwing these supers, and I got to say shout out to the folk. Thank you so much, Nola's Lover, for becoming a new member. Shout out for sure. What is Amethyst Angel, who is the stream sponsor, by the way? She says this: I never considered Catholicism even in my BC days. It never made sense to me that a never married priest was the authoritative marriage counselor. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Yep. Common sense. Heathens know never to seek marriage advice from a single person. No argument from me at all, Amethyst. I thank you. Shout out for the $20 super. Thank you. And being the stream sponsor. What is it? Candace crafts her stories in a way to insert herself into them. That's a good point.
Every single one.
Every single one. Because even when she has an opportunity to say, like, what was Father so-and-so or priest this and that teaching you? They were teaching me things. like you don't even talk about what they did or how they brought you through. But boy, oh boy, how great I am. I'm such a wonderful person because I overcame this by my spiritual bootstraps. Amethyst again says, and about iconography. Protestants wear empty crosses. Catholics wear crucifixes. They continue to mark what he finished when he rose again. Yeah, they continue to mark what he finished when he rose again. Shout out. Absolutely. There's a lot of differences now. There is a lot of differences. I do believe the Lord can save Catholics. Absolutely. But we do have some deep differences. It's not just, some ancillary, something that you learn in public school, because, shout out to public schools. The Roman Church, shout out to Phantom, says, as the Roman Church claims that they were the original church. Okay, I can claim that I'm the original basketball player. It's just not true. And Peter was the head. And this is not found in actual church history, but they claim it. Yeah, and like I said before, thank you for the $5 super, Phantom. These are some of the things that we need to knuckle those out. We're not just making differences because we don't like Catholics. There's a theological difference there. Right. Candace is doing it for the plot. I am the victim. Thank you, CU, for the $2 super. And what do we have here? Thank you again, Phantom. It is clear that she never understood what Protestants teach about anything. Furthermore, public school is anti-Christian. I don't understand how public school just kept catching strays all the time. Like,
yeah, no idea.
Like leave public school alone. Go ahead.
How about drawing the similarities of what Protestants believe and the Catholics believe? Is there a word? Is there a scripture that we all believe? Is there one thought that unifies all of us, that Jesus Christ is our Lord and that we accepted him into the heart? You know what I mean? There's not one unifying thought between the two.
Nope. And let's keep this going up. And this is her testimony of her conversion to Catholicism, not her testimony of salvation. Aren't you presenting your argument from a faulty premise? No, I can't find her testimony of her conversion. That's the thing. And I don't, and I'm putting it out there, Amethyst. Thank you for the $5 super. I'm putting it out there. Somebody can give me, and somebody sent me a video that I need to look through. Maybe it's in there, but I want to know when she was a unbeliever and became a believer. That's what I don't find. This is the best I can find. I thought this was the best take on it. So I'm not just trying to give it. I'm not just trying to be difficult. I can't find it. Yeah. But Phantom came back again with a $5. Says she should read the actual Bible. God made a lot of separations and division. Noah, Abraham, Israel, Judah, the remnant, the disciples, the church. Goodness gracious! Shout out. You're right. But I don't. To me, I think that comment that anything with divisions or fractioned or separated is not holy or is evil. I think somebody told her that. I don't think she came up with that from her own machinations. I think somebody told her that. Just like if you study history, you're going to become Catholic. That came from her husband.
Yeah.
Like she didn't come up with that on her own power, her own steam. What were you about to say?
It seems like she's regurgitating a lot of these talking points. Absolutely.
And when she's not going to get pushed back, because I would love for her to get pushed back on these talking points and see what happens. But Eric right here with the $10 says this: Candace's rejection, sensitivity, defensiveness, rigidity, and black and white thinking is starting to sound like something went horribly wrong in her childhood home. And she doesn't talk about that, but she was raised in poverty. She was raised in a bad situation. And her grandfather and grandmother actually rescued her and her brother and siblings sisters out of that situation. And that's where, so she does kind of skip over that. I don't know. She never actually mentions her dad. So I don't know where dad is in this equation, but it doesn't sound like she was raised. She started off in a good situation. So it's very possible, Eric, that you're right on the money. Thank you for the $10 super, that there might've been some problems there. And I don't know. She doesn't really talk about it. MT, what do you say here? Sent you an email. It's too long for super chat. She's dumb. Thank you for the $2. I'll look at it in a second. Absolutely. Shout out to MT. I appreciate you. Just enjoy your podcast. Thank you so much, Lady Rich. I appreciate it so much. And then what we got here? Thank you for the $5 Alami with the $5 super. I usually don't stay so long in a Christian focused stream. I'm Jewish, but you guys are great. And the chat was awesome. Well, hey,
awesome.
shout out to the best live chat on the internet. Thank y'all. See, we are trying our best to be a fun place where you can have a good time. And again, at the end of the day, when all the smoke clears, that we can still have a sensible, reasonable conversation. My goal is not for you to look at me and say, I can never have a conversation with that dude. I can never talk to him. I can never talk to Natalie. My goal is for you to say, hey, maybe we could have a good conversation and clear through some things and maybe parse through some things. We may not agree. We're probably not going to agree because I don't agree with me a lot of the time. But, thank you so much for the $5 super, and I appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. Somebody told me to pop over to Rumble. Why am I popping over to Rumble? Jay Witt, ever pop over to Rumble? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I read it. Now I read it. I'm going to be honest with you. Rumble, I am on Rumble. It is just hard to put videos on Rumble. It is a yeoman's work to get videos on Rumble. They're just not there yet. I support Rumble. I want them to be successful. It's just hard to get videos on Rumble. Like I can't do a live stream on the Rumble. Let me tell you, it is a nerve-wracking event. Have you ever tried that? Are you on Rumble?
I have, and I quit.
Yeah, see,
I have a channel on Rumble, but it's just it's tedious. It is tedious to get videos on there. It's not YouTube. I'll say that.
Yeah, and look, I want Rumble to be successful. I like competition. I don't know how we got into talking about YouTube analytics, but at the current moment, Rumble is not where. If Rumble could just get to the place where it's easier to upload and all I got to do is just click a button like I do here in StreamYard to get it over to Rumble, it will be a glorious thing. But at the moment today, it is just hard to do. So
Agreed.
I now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, I used to like take my live stream and then just upload it to Rumble, but I haven't even done that. So I'll try to get better at it though. Natalie, it has been a long night,
It has.
but it's been fun.
It has.
It's been fun.
It has.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me on here, and your group is great. Your audience is awesome. Glad to be part of this, and this I think that this was pretty impactful, and I'm, very grateful for the conversation and just for the thought provocations that come out of this.
I love it. Thank you. And now, Natalie, real quick, tell us about your channel again. As the moderators, make sure that they please put her channel in the chat.
Yeah, so my channel is Natalie Denise, my name, and I recently pivoted towards a cultural commentary from a Christian perspective. I will keep doing some conspiracy deep dives, but I'm gonna do them when I feel led to do them. But the majority, a book of my channel, will be Christian commentary on cultural events.
I love it. Well, thank you, love. And Ada comes in real quick with the $5. Says, I have noticed that Catholics, they rarely quote scripture, but quote books written by men all the time. Is that because they don't read it? Ooh. She gonna get us in you're gonna get us into extra inning kind of trouble. I'm gonna go on a limb and say, I think it's easier to make that, from my understanding, it's easier to be a Catholic because you're reading a lot of other people's books and not the book that God has given us. And I'm not saying they don't read scripture all the time, but please remember that part of the Protestant Reformation was to get the Bible into the hands of the common man or woman, not into the hands of just the priests ruling over the scriptures. So there's probably there's probably more reality or more truth to that claim than you might imagine. So I ain't saying that everybody who's a Catholic don't read the Bible. What I am saying is there's probably a little bit more truth to it. Because I mean, where'd you get veneration of Mary from? From the Bible, show me the Bible where you got it from. So, Natalie, we're gonna have you come back again, or I'll come over to your place, whatever. Just let us know. This was a lot of fun. I think everybody enjoyed. Y'all put Natalie in the chat. with a unique spelling, by the way. Is your name spelled like that for a reason? Is there something
my name is a typo. So my name is supposed to be Natalie with the A. And when they typed it up when I was a baby, they just, oops. And we just.
Are you for real? That is the best. No, you got the Oprah story.
There we go.
You got Oprah's story. We got Oprah in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. I was wondering why. I was wondering why it was spelled like that. Okay, shout out. Yeah. Okay. No, this is the correct spelling. We are going to go by the correct spelling is on the screen. That's the correct spelling. Because I was having a problem with it. Yeah, I was like, why? I'm like, I'm spelling this wrong. I'm spelling this wrong. I got to be spelling this wrong. I look at your email like, no, I spelled it right. Okay, cool.
Yep. There we go.
I love it. I love it. Y'all, thank y'all so much for not only welcoming our guests, thank y'all. I think we were streaming on Twitter as well as X. I'm sorry, X. We were streaming on X. Shout out to all the X Mafia out there. Shout out to y'all. We appreciate you. Natalie, you're welcome whenever. So let me know if you ever want to come by. You want to come and play Candace Bingo one day? We're doing Candace. We're playing Candace Jeopardy Thursday. We're crazy. We're crazy and out over here.
Bingo every day. There's a new story. There's another one concocting right now that she's going to blame someone else tomorrow. Mikey McCoy, the pastor's son.
Ron McCoy.
Yep. That is the new blame tomorrow. So
get out of here. So when she goes live, I have the bingo board already ready. As soon as I know she's going live, I'm dropping the bingo board. We're gonna have a good time having a watch party, and we'll just go like that. Oh, do we have your YouTube channel? Did the mods drop your YouTube channel in there? I thought they did. If they didn't, I apologize.
Thank you, guys. Happy to have
for sure.
You.
All right, let me make sure. I don't see it in there. Yeah, please make sure you like the stream. I'm gonna drop it in there real quick before we end, so to make sure to populate. Natalie Denise.
Yep.
Hanging out. You said it was misspelled. I'm really thinking it was something deep.
No,
I said, no,
it's supposed to be Nat Ully, and they just, oops.
no way. Okay. Well, there we go. Well, thank you again, friend. I appreciate you stopping
you.
through.
Yeah,
We're going
absolutely.
and we are going to drop this in there. I don't know why it's not showing up. There we go. All right, dropping that in the chat. All right, everybody, have a fantastic rest of the night. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. Have a great night, Natalie. Thank you for hanging out with us. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Witt Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.